Yes, we are now.
Good evening. It being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to open up the June 15th meeting of the Georgetown Conservation Commission. And we have a number of hearings tonight on the agenda. Actually, we've got some that are going to be continued. We have some business issues to discuss. And let's see, our first hearing isn't actually going to open, well...
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. It being on or after 7 o'clock, I'm going to reopen 99 Central Street, GCC 2016-17, and that's a wetland delineation, and that's a continuation, that's an ANRAD, and we have been requested to continue this.
Correct.
No further update?
No, third-party review is still being done. I think they expanded the wetland in the vernal pool in one spot, which potentially could impact the driveway access to the house. But when the final review memo comes in, I'll send that off to you all. And so we'll continue them to the July 20th meeting at 7 o'clock, and hopefully they'll be done by then.
Is July too soon, or is it?
The memo should be out today or tomorrow, and it's literally just changing a line a few inches, so I don't think July is a unreasonable time frame.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue the 99 Central Street ANRAD to July 20th. If you don't have a time.
7 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue 99 Central Street to July 20th at 7.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the ANRAD hearing for 99 Central Street to July 20th at 7 p.m. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. Okay. And we've got a couple minutes.
7:10 on my phone.
Okay. And it's a calibrated phone, I hope. That thing's ancient. All right.
It's got some
It being on or after 7:10, I'm going to reopen a notice of intent for 64-74 East Main Street, GCC 2017-01. That's to pave an existing gravel driveway, construct paved parking spaces, install stormwater management areas within 100 feet of a BBW and within 200 feet of riverfront area. And it's my understanding that we've been also asked to continue this by the applicant.
Could I ask, am I allowed to ask questions about this while it's open?
Well,
I mean,
Or even though they're not here?
you
Because I
can,
wasn't
so,
here
yeah.
last month, so I would,
Yep.
and I see they were in.
Yep.
I would say briefly, just for
Yeah,
any
just
further
an
off,
overview.
It's almost better to do it offline, but briefly, yes. Go for
Is
it.
this the Dunkin' Donuts parking
Correct.
lot? And what are we waiting for?
The third-party review, they rechecked the wetland line, and the third-party review has been ongoing. Jillian said she emailed them today as far as understanding. So they're talking pervious pavement. Just to give a quick overview, even for the public. They're doing pervious pavement pretty much from the building back all the way around. And they're expanding the parking areas. They want to bring some of the employee parkings in the back. So there's probably 10, 12 parking spots in the back. And I think the big concern the commission had was the number of new parking inches, literally, feet
Yeah,
from the wetland.
It's not even 1 foot.
And some of the other concerns were the proposed pervious pavement, the engineering kind of design of pervious pavement. It needs some, 2 feet of material where you have really loose, big gravel. So when the water goes through, it has some place to store. Down there, the water table is so high, you're going to build this and it's going to be a geyser. It's going to be shooting water up. So it has a couple of issues that has to be resolved. So at this point, it's just going back and forth with the third-party reviewers, both engineering and the wetland scientist, to try to work out some of the issues. So when it comes back to the commission, they worked out their issues, and any outstanding issues will get decided by the commission.
Have they requested when they're going to be ready?
Continuation to July 20th. So the memo came out today. They get their feedback on it really quick. So again, July 20th at 7:10 is my.
And there was also discussion about grease traps and all that sort of thing back there
Yeah.
too. Okay,
Yep.
lovely, thank you.
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to continue 64-74 East Main Street to July 20th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue 6474 East Main Street till July 20th at 7:10.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 64-74 East Main Street to July 20th at 7:10. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries. Thank you. And, what's your,
Minutes. We got a
what's
few minutes
today?
on that. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Want to do some minutes? So these are 12, 15, May 18th, April 22nd, and January 19th minutes. All comments have been compiled by the commission and they're ready to be voted on.
Okay.
Um,
What
and
were the
it's
dates?
Signed by Carl. May 18th, April
May 18th, yeah.
April 27th, January 19th, and 12, 15, 16. You can always do it as read by Steve, motion when you want to do it, and then Carl has to sign them.
Make a motion to sign the minutes as read by Steve.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to sign the minutes, or I should say approve, we should say approve the minutes,
Approve the
right?
minutes.
As read by Steve. And that would be May 18th, April 27th, January 19th, and December 15th, 2016. Is there any further discussion?
Do I need to abstain from the May 18th?
Nope,
I just
it's-
abstain
it's a-
from
it's-
one?
It's more of an administrative act.
Okay,
So-
all right, that's fine. I won't.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. Let's see.
Couple more seconds. 2 appointments to some subcommittees. Rachel would like to, some strange reason, stay on the Conservation Commission.
Oh, right, that. I was like,
And,
what are
uh,
you doing with me now?
So this is actually the Open Space Committee.
We'll have to be on this to be on the open space.
Yeah. Andrea put down Conservation Commission, not Open Space. Wait a minute. This goes to the selectmen. It's not for you. Ignore it. So the selectmen appoint you, not the commission.
Right, they appointed me, right?
Yeah. She drafted this up thinking we appointed you,
Oh,
so.
no.
So Andrea, who is the assistant for the town, is also on the Open Space Committee. And her appointment is, she's up to be reappointed
Yeah, I
to the
think
Open
we
Space
do
Committee.
those, we do those every year for
Correct.
the,
So that's that. This we don't need, because we don't appoint you. You need a motion on that, just to reappoint.
entertain a motion to reappoint Rachel to the,
Yeah,
Andrea.
no,
Andrea.
Andrea.
Andrea to the
Open space.
Open Space Committee.
Make a motion to reappoint Andrea to the open space commission?
Perfect.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded to reappoint Andrea to the Open Space Committee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries.
Past 6:15.
And it being on or after 7:15, I'm going to reopen a notice of intent for Tenny Street, Lot 1, GCC 2016-18. That's the construction of a 4-bedroom dwelling, a portion of the driveway, utilities, and associated grading within the buffer zone and freshwater wetlands. And it's my understanding we've been asked to continue this as well.
So Steve might have messed up in his overview of the 99 Central Street, the first project, was actually for this Tenny Street one.
What
Sorry.
does that mean?
It does, they're both continuations.
Okay.
So my description, so when I said the wetland change by the vernal pool and how it might impact the house being built, that was actually for the Tenny Street project.
Oh, I didn't hear any of
Good.
that. Super.
No worries. So just kind of the Central Street one requested a continuation straight up. This Tenny Street one is the one where the vernal pool was reviewed. Jillian has the review letter coming in tomorrow, so we should be able to hear that at the next meeting.
So this wouldn't, again, we would want to send this to July 20th.
That's 7:15, please.
Entertain a motion.
Chairman, I make motion we continue Tenny Street to July 20th at 7:15.
Thank you.
Second?
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to continue the Tennis Street Lot 1 notice of intent to July 20th at 7:15 p.m. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries. All right. And
Couple
let's
minutes.
see, 7:20, we're about a minute away, maybe.
Actually, no one is here for that yet, so, and I know they were planning on coming. I have a couple of, this is an extension request for the permit for the turn leaf. I'm at Lisa Lane, 16 lot subdivision, give or take 16. The major project's probably 90% done, and they're just requesting an extension because it expires this year.
What does the
Order of conditions
the
for the-
order of conditions? It's
for the
been
entire
3
project.
years. Oh my goodness.
So that's more of an administrative act. This is a certification of compliance on 93 Spofford Ave, Spofford Street, I apologize. So 93 Spofford, it's an old one from,
So that was an order?
so it's a certification of compliance on order of conditions
Okay.
for 93 Spofford. I honestly forget the date, it's over
So did
15
you-
years.
did you
Oh,
go out-
94.
Did you go out and check it out?
I did. This is a strange one. To the best I can tell, it was on an order where the work was never actually done, because there was another order issued that was closed out like 10 years later. And so it's one of these kind of ghosts order of conditions that was registered at the Registry of Deeds. And when they do their title exam on houses, when they go to sell it, this house has been bought and sold 15 times. And someone
It never
looked back-
picked up?
No.
Really?
So it's from 1994, and just someone picked it up. And so I've been just honestly trying, this is like a 2-week project, just trying to track down what this is. Because there's one after this that was approved, closed out.
So in
Recorded.
other words, the hearing that was post this, they didn't even realize that this was
Probably.
open still, yeah, okay.
Yeah, part of our trying to get our file system down better is so this stuff doesn't happen. I have hundreds and hundreds of files in the basement. I don't even know what they are.
Boxes of files in the
Laura
basement.
started it way back when she was here, Susan was working on it. This is like
Intern.
the third. Exactly. So those are 2 administrative ones we can do for a few seconds.
Do we make a motion? or
Nope, they're just administrative.
Just sign.
I'm in pass mode.
just sign it?
Exactly.
When, at some point, I would also like to talk about Camp Den and the camp out there.
Perfect
Can
time.
we talk about that?
Yeah, we have nothing, I mean, as long as Carl's cool with it. The people for.
Well, so the applicant isn't here for West Street, so, we're not really gonna open the hearing.
I mean, there's one person here for the West Street. The applicant's not here. I do believe they are coming, as well as our third-party reviewer, Jillian. So, must just be a
We'll
lot
give
of
it a few
traffic out
minutes.
there.
What, they didn't think we'd be on time?
We also have a bunch of bills we can sign too, but let's.
So, Steve, do you know if they have, there they are now?
You can keep going. They're gonna set up.
Do you know if they have, filled, like, what is the status of the camp out at Camp Den? Have they,
Build what? I'm sorry.
do they have like lots of campers who are registered? It's all
Sorry,
gonna
when I
go
hear
well,
Phil,
they
I
have
think-
lots of,
When I hear Phil, I
oh
think
yeah,
soil.
sorry, bad word.
So over the past year, they've they've been very busy. They're booked almost every weekend, tons of weddings. The road was paved last year with CPC money. The bathhouse is probably 95% done. So I was down there yesterday checking on it, and it looks really good. They showed me a few pictures from when they started, and it would have been easy to tear it down and start over. Pretty much they took every 2x4 off it and replaced it. But it looks really nice. Again, commercial plumbing, they had to hire a commercial plumber to do all that. They're doing all like the siding and trim work, everything they can do. It looks great, but I haven't gotten kind of a dollar figure on this year in bookings, but they're doing really, really well, very busy.
I was thinking about Andrew Prazer's camp was more my question.
I haven't heard. When does that,
Okay.
that starts? I mean, it's locked
Starts
into,
in July sometime.
it's locked down, contracts are
Yeah.
signed, he's ready to
Yeah.
rock and roll.
I was just
I
wondering how it was looking.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't really heard any updates.
Maybe you could reach out just to get some feedback?
Yeah, and I'll actually go directly to him, just so that, the horses smell type thing.
I think I have a flyer for it.
Yeah.
Oh, you did it come home from school?
No.
No.
They won't let him do it in school.
Crosby.
So Jillian's not here yet. Let me, I have some bills that we can sign. So, expense for the postage for the town, Conservation Commission, $25. Water, $10 for the community gardens. That's our annual, turning on the valve fee. This is supplies for Camp Dennison, $6,000 in total, $6,900 in total. Some electrical, some plumbing, more electrical. Keep in mind, we're lumping these now, so I'm not reading every single bill. This is kind of the total. So we got paint, glass, fire protection is one of the more expensive ones. Reimbursement to the Friends of Camp Dennison.
What account is all that coming out of?
This is the Camp Dennison revolving, so this
Okay.
is money,
Yep.
they're kind of a self-funding.
No, I get it, the revolving.
Yeah,
goes
they,
in and out.
they're
Yep.
supposed to be self-funding. Some of the bigger projects, like the bathhouse and the roadway, are
Oh,
CPC
CPC.
funded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then another Camp Dennison revolving, a little over $1,000. Yeah, hardware. Like I said, they're doing so much work on the bathhouse. If you guys check it out sometime, it's really impressive.
Just as you reminded me as you were reading off one of the bills about the garden,
Mhm.
you know, we did some work in progress last year on trying to move that forward. I just would like to continue on with it, not
Yeah.
just drop it and
Yeah.
let it linger.
So Andrew did a really, really good job this year of, so in the past, we had a volunteer kind of managing it down there and taking over the plots and who gets what plot and coordinating it. Lonnie Brennan was doing that for probably 15 years.
Sure.
He stopped doing it. We took it over last year. We were so busy, we really didn't do a good job at it. Andrew's really taking the lead. She's going down and working. She has her own plot down there, so when she's there, she reaches out to the people there, and she's really coordinating things a lot better. We've got a new website we're working on that kind of lays out what and where and how. We're planning on bringing in an excavator in the fall. Highway Department is
Because, you know,
offered
we
bringing in to
had
do some of that
CPC
site work.
monies to address the parking and some other
Correct.
stuff down there.
That'll be
too.
starting in the fall. So we'll have a full-size excavator, probably spend 2 months down there. I worked out a deal with the Highway Department, so we'll pay for the machine.
And we also had this discussion, which raised some eyebrows about perennial versus annual.
Yeah, that's gonna be, I'm kicking that can down the road, to be honest with you. We're gonna develop the parking, develop some more plots, and create some perennial beds, and then we can go and look at all the annual plots and try to
Yeah.
ask people to move over. But if we've no place for them to move their perennial crops to, I think we're gonna get a lot of pushback. So my thought is to develop the parking, not the parking, it's more of access,
Well, this is.
some perennial plots, and then we can work towards kind of rehashing the
A
main
few
area.
years ago, we had someone actually expand on the side of that a little bit. There was some
Correct.
trees that removed, so. I
Yep.
just didn't want it to get dropped as a project, so.
We're on it. So we're gonna have a full-size excavator. The deal I worked out with the highway department is we're paying for the machine, and their guys need some training. And so what they're gonna do is go down there and get, a bunch of hours. And so we're pretty much getting the work done for free. They'll pay for the gas and the labor. All we do is pay for the machine, and he'll get like a good monthly rate. So we'll get a lot of work done. It's just not gonna be done in a week, and it's not kind of a traditional.
And the other
technique.
aspect of that is, as far as Lufkin's Brook, the front access needs to be cleaned out, and that really needs to be done. Technically, that's supposed to be a little parking area in there right off of 97, 133, I should say.
You really can't get in there.
And you can't get in there, and we really should. And people don't even realize it's there.
Yeah.
So, you can access it from the back, but that's actually the front
Yep.
entrance, so. We need to clean that out.
Do we need a motion?
Yes, please. I was just texting Jillian to see where she is.
Motion to pay the bills.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills as read by Steve.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to pay the bills as read by Steve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All abstaining. Motion carries. And you indicate you just tried to contact Jillian?
Yeah, she did not pick up. She didn't reply yet.
I just got an email from her.
Is she coming?
Was
Maybe
that
she'll
about
respond to you.
Want me to ask her?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if you have her in your system.
What's the project, Steve?
47 West Street.
Can I ask a question
We're not-
about something that's not on the agenda? Like, what is the status of 15 True Lane?
EO update.
Yep.
That is very reasonable. All the fill was dealt with as of 2 weeks ago. I don't have the date off the top of my head. It was.
What do you mean the fill was dealt with? It was removed?
It was removed. A little bit of it was pushed off to the side, far right, out of our jurisdiction. That was probably 4 or 5 days after the deadline on the enforcement order. The replanting was supposed to be done. week and a half ago. It was not done. They're telling me the plants are ordered and they will be in next week. So it's moving along, but
Well,
we're getting to a really bad time of the year for planting and starting
Yeah,
seeds.
just
So they're gonna
make
have to
sure
do a lot of irrigation.
Keep the communication going with their individual involved.
They're
Obviously,
actually very good with emailing. I
There are
get,
fines accruing on it, of course.
correct. The contractor received an enforcement order with a fine. That has not been paid yet. I think they have a few more days on that. I get
I'm
probably.
sorry, could you repeat that? The
The
contractor?
contractor received an enforcement order with $600 worth of fines. That has not been paid yet.
Which contractor? There were a number of them.
They,
Only the main dirt guy, he does.
The
he-
fill, the fill.
Yeah.
Yes.
The gentleman that cut the trees was a Craigslist.
Yeah, I mean,
Forgets the guy's
initially it was a
name.
little unclear how that all happened, finally. kind
So
of-
apparently the contractor, the main digging contractor cut a few of the trees, but someone else came in before that and cut down the majority. That person's name, he doesn't know. He thought it was some Italian sounding name, which doesn't really help us
dear.
much.
Doesn't
So
give me
you
a
guys
lot of-
asked me to write an enforcement order towards a tree person, and I can't do that at this
so
time.
the original contractor who moved the fill in cut down some of the trees.
Like one or two. The
Not the
majority
main
were cut
bulk
with
of
someone
them.
else that we don't know who it
I'm
was.
just clarifying.
Yep, yeah,
that
he did cut a few.
He said he didn't cut any when he was there.
So he
I'm
just paid some guy,
clarifying
he
that.
just paid some guy cash
The
and.
homeowner did, correct. I'm just bringing this back to you
Okay.
guys. I get about 2 emails a week, so communication is not a problem in this project at all. It's more,
What comes next?
I mean,
With
the
that.
replanting and 3 years of oversight, to keep an eye on it. It's not, how do I put it? I think they're gonna have a really hard time getting the trees and the plants and the seedlings to take this time of the year. They're gonna have to irrigate it and do a replanting next year, whatever it doesn't take. I'm a little worried about that. But the gentleman's kind of overseeing it, the owner's overseeing the whole project himself, so I'll be honest with you, he's very reactive. I gave him a plan, like I've been kind of managing it, working with him. I'll mention, you have to do a replanting plan, get the plan into me first so I can approve it, so then you can order the plants, have them delivered. So all of a sudden he's like, okay, next, when the time comes, he says, okay, now what? I'm like, well, did you order the plants? He's not used to this, he's a lawyer. He's not paying attention to like the process and where to go with it. He's working hard, he's trying, every time I tell him to do something, he does it. It's just, he's missing the deadlines, almost all of them, and part of it's just, he's not, this isn't what he does for a living.
He's taking care of his family and working and doing this.
He's juggling,
So-
he's juggling a lot, to be fair, and
So
he
not-
is moving along.
Not all the fill has been removed. Remember, he wanted to move some over to the side
He
to
did.
build it.
He did.
Is there any erosion control around
There's
that?
probably, in total, there's probably 4 rows of erosion control. There's a
Okay.
double at the bottom, there's one at the toe of the slope, there's one at the top of the slope, and once they put some seeds down and their vegetation down, they're gonna put jute mat over the entire slope. And then grass the top area per
Great.
plan. So, again, if they irrigate, this thing is gonna grow in and with this heat, really, really well.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could get some pictures of updates of that.
Yeah,
as it's
I can do that.
Going along, obviously,
I mean, the slope is still pretty steep.
yeah.
It was steep before, but again, I never saw it before, but we got back to kind of original grade. But with all the vegetation, it probably didn't look as steep. When you look at it right now, it's
Yeah.
still, I wouldn't want to
Of
sled
course, when
down
this
it,
first
it's so steep.
transpired, it was, vernal pool season, it was raining all the time, it's a little drier now, but, there was a lot of risk
So,
there.
what does the impact to the vernal pool look like?
I don't know how to assess siltation on a vernal pool. I've seen a few egg masses in other locations that didn't hatch and didn't mature. They kind of stay in blob form. They don't really disperse as much. I'll be honest, this vernal pool, most of the deeper water is a little bit further out. I have not gone out waiting to look for those. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know how to assess siltation damage on a vernal
You can't see
pool.
any like clouding?
No, it's all settled out. It's all settled. I mean,
Right.
that main issue was in the spring where it was raining.
Right.
We had like 4 weeks of rain, and you went out there and you could see this cloud moving out 100 feet into the vernal pool. That's all settled out. So to your point, I didn't go out mucking in and disturb it again. That silt has settled out, however much it was. The wetland scientists on site suggested that it didn't cover enough of the vernal pool to be, horrible. He thought a lot of the critters that can swim or just swim away from it, and the cell settles, and then they just keep going back. It's if the egg masses get covered over and suffocate. I'm guessing a wheelbarrow load of dirt actually got blown out into it, which isn't that much, but when it's cloudy and mucking through there, it looked like a lot. I just don't know how to assess that, to be honest with you.
I kept forgetting to ask, or maybe we did discuss, it's not an endangered species area?
No, it's
Is
not.
it? Okay. Super.
Any word on third party?
No word.
No, they didn't know.
So I'm gonna have to move along here.
I understand.
She's driving and refusing to text.
All
Good for
right.
her.
Smart.
That is good.
It being on or after 7:20, I'm going to reopen notice of intent for 47 West Street, DEP -161-0826. That's the construction of 16-unit senior housing development with associated grading, roadway, septic system, utilities, stormwater management structures, and portions are within the DPW, and this is a state-only hearing. We have the applicant and our consultant. If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
For the record, my name is Michael Seecamp, Seecamp Environmental Consulting, and with me tonight is Richard Morello, the applicant for Georgetown West Realty Trust.
All right, so we did a site walk on the 12th,
Monday.
Monday. And let's see.
Want a quick update, Carl, on where we stand with this?
That would be nice.
So Jillian, the third-party reviewer, who I'm hoping we walk through the door in any minute, did multiple kind of reviews of the wetland line, identified some areas of concern. Mr. Seecamp, through some investigation, came up with a, I'm calling it a theory, you can call it whatever. He believes that some work was not done during the cleanup that caused the grades to not be returned back to their original grades. Thus, the wetland changed over time. The purpose of the site walk was to try to understand better that concept, and the commission really needs to pretty much weigh in on where is the line, what are we going with, this one or this one, and again, Mr. Seecamp can explain more about that. I'll be honest with you, it, to a point, we've spent a lot of time talking about this line, and I was talking to Jillian yesterday, and my concern is that we're spending a lot of time discussing this. We haven't really gone into the stormwater, we haven't gone into the Wetland Protection Act and all the discussion about the project and other impacts. We really have spent the entire time just getting into this project just a little bit, trying to figure out this wetland line. We need to make a decision on the wetland line. This is the third meeting we've discussed it, and it's complicating, it's confusing. And honestly, I'm still having a hard time getting my head around it, but until we close that out, Jillian hasn't even published her memo reviewing this project. We need to get this moving as far as that review.
The other factor is that although the site appears to be growing in, the site is gonna have to be ultimately redisturbed because
Correct.
you have debris throughout that site. So even if the decision is to, move the line back to where it originally was, everything's gotta get sifted in that site. So,
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
was
there's
some large
enough materials out there, I can still build a Buick out there. I mean, there's stuff everywhere.
The order of conditions that was issued for the cleanup, or the closeout enforcement order, whatever you want to call it, we did both, had a kind of stipulation, and the applicant agreed at the time, and it's in the minutes, I went back and looked, that the entire disturbed site, not just the construction site, would be sifted to 2 inches diameter, or 1 inch diameter, down 2 feet. So it would pick up all of that material. That's the entire site, not just where the houses are going. And that was kind of an agreed upon, that's when we closed it out before, that was agreed upon. So a lot of the material there, yes, it looks horrible, yes, it's disturbed, but we kind of knew that all along. If we had disturbed it 2 years ago, we would have potentially had erosion control, we would have had other issues. It was a very intentional decision not to screen it and get rid of all that material because it was vegetated and stable. We knew all along, as you guys just discovered, that it was gonna look like that. So I'm not surprised. I haven't been out there for 6 months at this point, but I've been out there 100 times when there was less vegetation 10 years ago, and there's a ton of trash in car equipment. A lot of it in the wetland down below. I think it's actually on town land.
Some of it, yeah.
There's a lot of it on the parcel that's proposed to be donated. You know, as part of this, that has to be discussed and conditioned. There's nothing in here about kind of removal of that trash, but the original discussion was it would all be removed. That's not being shown in this project, but it would be, you know, conditioned accordingly later.
You said it was the entire disturbed site needs to
kind
be
of inside the
sifted
tree
down
line.
to 2 feet.
Inside the tree line, pretty much. Just kind of draw a line
Yeah,
on
we
the
had
tree
the, we had the
line.
discussion that the cars, for the most part, never made it out into the woods because of the trees, obviously,
Right.
but most of the, you might find a few pieces of debris out
Yeah,
there.
there's half a car out there, but, you know.
Hubcaps, and there was some.
The sort of thing little more than what we saw the other night then.
But I think the open areas where, from my recollection, where most of the car activities were,
Right.
and that's where all most of the debris is.
So we saw the topsoil had been removed where we were in the main site.
Mhm.
So are you saying that we need to actually go and sift beyond there? Okay, so we have not apparently removed all the debris beyond the building area that we were in the other day.
Never aimed to. I mean, most of the cars, most of the debris was in the main site that you guys probably walked. The parcel that's being proposed to be donated gets a lot less attention because they're not proposing any work. It's on the other side of that wetland, so you go down, you hit that little wetland
The
strip.
little finger wetland
Yeah,
that we,
the other
okay.
side of it
Mhm.
is more of the same land. It was just as disturbed. It wasn't as heavily disturbed. There's still a lot of trash over there. That has to get cleaned up as well.
So when you were using the word disturbed there, you mean when the original junkyard was
Historically,
there,
correct.
not the disturbance that we're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean,
Am
yeah, right, there
Correct.
was some,
Okay,
there was some
okay.
car parts over in those other areas too. You know,
Yeah.
initially, cause I remember doing the site walk and there was like pieces of cars over there, but they weren't like stacked up over there. They were just,
Right,
they
okay.
drifted.
So there are
you
two
might say.
different kinds of disturbed areas. There's the original junkyard disturbed area, and then there's the hard pan area that we were in the other day that has had the top 2 feet already removed, and
No, nothing has been removed. Nothing has been screened
we
down
were
to 2 feet.
walking on, I thought it had been,
That
that's
was
why
from,
the
that
grade
was from the
is
cleanup.
down.
That soil was
That-
taken off
okay,
of the
that-
cleanup.
Okay, so
Probably
we're
was-
talking about going 2 feet further down?
It was 1 foot, it wasn't 2 foot, 1 foot.
Okay, we talking about going 2 feet further down?
2
Okay.
feet period.
Because
just
there
2 feet
were,
period.
during
Oh,
the,
okay.
during the
All right.
cleanup, there were piles of soil that they had like,
Yeah.
tarps over and things like that due to, DEP regulations for, minimizing spread of contaminants.
Okay.
So as they dug up contaminated areas, they tarped them over and then ended up sending them off for disposal. But I think they were looking at that from a chemical oil, heavy metal perspective, not car parts. I mean, I think if you're gonna build houses, people don't want alternators coming up in their front yard.
Not really.
So it's just kind of a quick question for Mr. Seacamp as far as the delineation, because I'm still trying to get my head around this and I'm trying to dummy it down a little bit.
I'm trying to figure out, is the wetland now bigger or smaller than it was?
That's for you.
We have wetland hydrology in the area that was cleaned up, because the water actually flows in that, what we call the finger wetland, which we saw flowing on the site walk.
Mm-hmm.
When the water table is higher, it actually jumps the bank, goes into the area, it acts like a bowl. So now originally we found wetland hydrology when we put the monitoring wells, the groundwater monitoring wells in the early spring. Now when we got out there at the site walk, we had horsetails and I saw sensitive fern in some areas. So now we're starting to get some wetland vegetation. However, that's not where the wetlands were originally. This is in the area that was cleaned up. And a foot or more of soil has already been removed, and now the soil has to be sifted for the smaller pieces of glass, plastic, and metal.
So the wetlands have essentially changed and expanded or changed the locations from what they may originally have, and wetlands are always changing anyway.
That's right. However, it's our contention that, because the cleanup called for, restoring the original grades on the site, that would then restore the wetlands to where they originally were, and that was the intent. There was no intent to allow, wetlands to migrate. Similar to when a sand and gravel operation is abandoned. If they dig too deep, the main difference between a wetland and an upland basically is how much soil is on top of the water table. So if you go too deep with a sand and gravel operation and you get too close to the water table, if you leave it and don't do anything and don't raise the grade, then the wetlands will develop, even though there's no topsoil. I mean, eventually you get wetland vegetation. And I think that's what we're seeing here. However, even in that situation, the DEP has decided that there's a certain number of years that are allowed for this to happen before they become jurisdictional. And we feel that the same applies here.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a gravel pit. And,
No, but
you
it's
know,
it's a cleanup that was, not only is it a cleanup, but in the cleanup plan, called for restoring the grades. So therefore, the wetlands would not have been allowed to migrate. I'd like to point out also that the project, the cleanup, neither the cleanup nor the project has resulted in any permanent loss of wetlands. So there's no need for mitigation on this project. The mitigation is the cleanup, basically, and the donation of about 10 or more acres of land to the town.
But, I mean, are you proposing to, these fingers, are you proposing to fill them in and then, that's what it sounds like?
The wetlands that have developed beyond where they were, we're proposing to screen the top foot of soil because it's full of debris still, and then restoring the original grades, and therefore the wetlands will go back to where they were.
In other words, you're gonna fill them.
Fill it in, right.
Well, typically, we don't allow filling. I mean,
Well, typically you don't have a cleanup situation like this that requires filling. It's required in the cleanup plan, and we're still under an enforcement order that's based on the cleanup plan,
So you pretty much,
as far as I know.
yeah, so two options. We can go with the wetland line as it is right now. Or, in my opinion, if the cleanup was not done properly, and that this argument is suggesting wasn't done properly, then I think we need to table this project and reopen a formal cleanup. We can't bounce back and say, oh, we didn't really
Well,
clean it up, let's bounce back and do a little more.
see, the thing is,
It's kind of all or nothing.
the thing is, it's almost moot from the discussion perspective, because if you've gotta scrape off the soil and filter it all for debris anyway, whatever wetland, whatever's there is gonna be back to moonscape again, and then you're gonna be from square one.
Either way, this wetland is compacted, disturbed. Either way, it needs to be, it needs some help. It needs to scrape down, add some organics, plant it properly. You know, again, they're not required to do mitigation. We haven't gone into the project yet.
Yeah.
We need to lock down the line, where is it, and then move
It's
forward.
kind
It
of-
has nothing to do with the other specifics and
This
little
is
details.
figuring out really the philosophy. Does the commission want the, the enforcement order says, bring it back to the way it was? Or does the commission want to kind of look at it from the perspective of kind of what you have now and use that as a starting point? The enforcement order says kind of go back the way it is. I mean,
The wetland line expired. It was 2003. It's been expired for a long time.
so this is so disturbed, the whole site. It's, that's kind of the, chicken or the egg. You have to kind of figure that out before we kind of continue to the next level.
So, what would be most beneficial to the health of the soil there and the health of the people who are going to be living there in terms of removing any remaining debris?
That's-
And then potentially, that's going to happen,
That's a
I
given.
understand that. And then, like, how do we actually condition the site so it is the healthiest it can be? Which is either returning it to the 2003 line and filling and potentially burying or whatever
Mhm.
might be lingering there still.
Yep. It's gonna get
Or-
removed either way.
It is going to get moved, so
It's
I
gonna get
feel like
removed
we're
anyway.
perseverating over the wetland line, and really the bigger, more important part that I would like to focus on is the cleanup and the debris and
agree.
all of that sort of thing. That wetland is very small, it's very lovely. We could, I don't think, based on what I think I saw the other night, I don't feel that it's going to be tremendously destructive to put it back to where it was for 2003.
It's important to decide that because again, some of the, and it's gonna be different for some commissions, some of these houses may be fairly close to the wetland. Because
Yes,
again,
very.
we haven't dealt with many cases that you're just dealing with a state act.
Exactly.
And you're not gonna be able to say, there's a hard 75-foot setback. It isn't defined that way.
Right.
Well,
So
where I was
that's what's
standing
making
was
me feel
somebody's
like more
proposed
fill would
river.
be a better idea.
And it was wet.
But that would change if it was restored.
You hope it's changed because water goes where water will go and you can try to fill it and you can try to push back, but it's not going to do it unless it feels like it.
Let's-
I have seen people try to do that before and it has failed miserably every single time.
There's actually a huge precedent set too. Again, I've looked at the grading plan and the engineering schematics, and it's very confusing. It hasn't been checked by a third-party review. We're pretty much being given this, said, here we go, this is what we want to do.
Excuse me,
That
hasn't
that
been-
plan? I haven't got any feedback from Dominic in writing on that. Have you?
oh, we just got some feedback this week from Dominic that was held by apparently your office
Mhm.
since March 16th, I believe.
Yeah, Dominic was supposed to send it to you.
And
Did-
we've had our response,
I have
which
it
I
here.
sent to you earlier, from Christensen and Sergi.
Yep, that's Dominic's.
And
review
we've
letter.
answered those questions. I believe this is the review of the project.
When was that sent?
This was sent today.
At 4 o'clock.
We got it on Monday, and it was sitting in your office since March 16th.
Mhm. I understand that.
So, and then we got an email saying that, and we got this email on the 1st. It says, "I am down to 4 commissioners on the Concom. With the law that does not allow a commissioner to miss more than one meeting, we could have a problem getting legal vote in the future. If that was to happen, you would have to withdraw and reapply." So the next meeting is July
20th.
and so if you lose one more commission member, you're saying we have to start over and reapply?
Well, that's the Mullen rule. You're aware of that.
And that would be not at our fault, but that would be almost, I'm not sure what, but we filed this NOI 11 months ago.
I understand.
So what's holding everything up?
Nothing, I don't believe, sir. We've been discussing this.
Well,
We've had
we're
sidewalks.
ready to move on. We're ready to get a
This has been
decision.
going on for more than a decade, sir. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
since 2000, and you're
Decade.
coming in here barking at me about pushing this thing forward. Give me a break. Come on. Since
Well,
since 2000,
we're expecting a decision tonight.
we haven't even discussed the layout yet.
We haven't had a
The
third-party
You've already
review.
approved the layout under the bylaw and under the Wetlands Protection Act back in 2003. So this is the same project. So if you don't agree with where the wetland line should be, that's fine, but we are not going to back down on that. We're not gonna give up the project and
Didn't ask you to do that.
well, that's what'll happen if we allow the wetlands to migrate, accidental wetlands. The project would be,
So it moved 10 feet. That's going to kill the project. It's nowhere near the
we
project.
didn't say 10 feet, it's more than 10 feet.
Yeah, where I was standing was,
Yeah.
okay.
But it's
So-
still not in the limit of work yet.
Yeah, well, where I was standing,
Mhm.
I was told that was somebody's living room.
But that's not what any of the plans show.
I know that, but I
Can
was
can you
told-
review the stormwater with me?
It's right here.
For- Don't just hand me a letter.
That
I
came
mean,
in
this is a-
at 4 o'clock. I haven't even
Yeah,
read it yet.
okay, so, there were 2 issues about stormwater that Dominic had sent to our engineer. And here's, our engineer's, response to the 2 that they disagree on. Number 4, the opinion taken by BSC that the post-cleanup woods conditions should be used for the pre-development drainage condition is incorrect. So apparently they disagree. The project included site cleanup as well as construction of the development. The project was approved in its entirety. The pre-development conditions are the pre-development conditions, not the conditions partway through the project. Would BSC allow or require a developer who began a large project by cutting down 5 acres of forest in good condition, and then redid the hydrologic calculations of the pre-development conditions as bare ground, and thus is able to show that the detention pond previously approved is no longer needed, question mark. So, I'm not an engineer, but it sounds like we have two engineers that are disagreeing with each other on a somewhat esoteric subject, and that has to do with the coefficient of drainage between poor and fair conditions. And then related to that is number 5. The premise for this comment goes back to item 4. Our position is that the pre-development conditions are the conditions at the start of the project. The drainage calculations don't show any increase in flow, and therefore the infiltration is the same as under pre-development conditions.
How can they not show any increase in flow? I mean,
I'm not an engineer, so, however, our engineer has answered the questions, and as far as I know, that's the end of the review. I don't see where there's anything else to discuss. I mean, we've had all this time to discuss what?
I mean, honestly, I very much believe with a third-party reviewer, you cannot say that dirt and asphalt are the same. I can tell you the moon's made out of cheese. You disagree, go back and forth. That doesn't make it true. That's just, typically we go with our third-party reviewers. If our third-party reviewer says this line should be here, the applicant says there, we go with what our third-party reviewer says. Every time, we've never broken that precedence. This isn't a we agree to disagree option. Asphalt sheds water differently than dirt, period. If you say
We're not talking about the difference between asphalt and dirt, though. We're talking about the difference between forest in a pre-construction condition and a site that is now stripped bare in a halfway through.
So you're not an engineer, correct? It's the engineer that wrote that here. So we're pretty much a bunch of wetland scientists, an engineer, a teacher. I mean, we're
It
just.
doesn't
we're
matter.
trying to-
This is the answer. This is
Yeah.
this is our final answer.
That's yours. Our final answer is he doesn't agree with you. That doesn't mean that your opinion is correct. It means it's a discussion that
Well,
needs to go on.
it's two professionals having a disagreement. It doesn't
It
mean.
typically
Absolutely.
comes
When
back
did this letter come in?
at 4:00 today.
Well,
I mean,
Because
where
I'm
it's-
reading one on that same subject, like from March 16th.
Correct.
Right. And we
Right,
didn't
that's
get
the
that.
answer
We
to
didn't
that.
get
Sorry.
that letter until
Right.
Monday.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about, because I've been through this and sort of made notes, and I don't know what that letter says.
So
That's
this was
the
your
answer to
response.
that.
This is the response to
So
that
you
letter.
you just sent the response out today to that.
That's right.
So I haven't even seen that response.
We didn't get it until, well, I'll give it to you
I
now.
understand that.
So
I can give it to you.
typically
I have
the
made
engineer and
copies.
the wetland scientist send out the memo to me, and they CC the applicant. In this case, he did not send it to the applicant, he just sent it to me. So at one point, Mr. Seacamp said, "Hey, Steve, where's that memo?" I said, "Wait a minute, I got it a month ago, you haven't received it yet." The second I found this out, we sent it off to the applicant. Again, these engineering reviews take months. This is not unusual, there's no unusual delay. The planning board takes 6 months to do their engineering review.
Steve, you had that
So
letter
this
since
1,
March
2, 3,
16th.
4.
We got
Yeah.
it June 12th. That's 3 months.
We didn't get that letter until June 12th, so.
That day we did the walk, we got it.
Again, I apologize, the third-party reviewer always sends them out, I wasn't aware of it. If you asked me earlier, I would have sent it to you earlier. The first time you reached out to me, you had it within a day. I don't see
I didn't have it within a day, but I had it within a couple of days.
I apologize, 2 days instead of 1 day. The second I was aware that you were not, you didn't have the memo, you got it. I don't see how that takes away from the facts of the memo, and I don't
see how it takes away
I
from
don't
the
think-
validity that our engineer has
So,
answered the questions,
we
and we're ready
technically-
to move on.
We
We're
can't take
ready for a
anything in.
decision.
Within 40, we need stuff within 48 hours of a hearing to be
That's-
considered.
it says
This doesn't
right there.
exist as far as this hearing goes. The regulations say within 48 hours. 4 hours is not 48.
Steve, can I ask you a question?
Everything goes through the chair, sir. You
Please,
more than
please,
welcome. to
Chairman.
say.
Direct it up here. Be all set.
That letter come in from the third party, was it March 16th, I believe?
Yes.
And we've had 2 meetings since then. Steve, nothing ever come up about that letter.
So,
You
yes.
never asked about that letter.
Wait a
Doesn't
minute.
matter, I mean.
They're
they're-
third party is
What's
working for you
coming? It
guys.
wasn't
They're
addressed
working
to
for
them.
you.
Right, it's addressed to the commission.
It's not unusual. It takes
He's
months to do these
saying
reviews. It takes
that-
months.
Well,
He's
it takes
saying that
months if you don't
usually
give us the
gets
information.
So the
CC'd.
fact
And then they
that,
asked for it, and then they got it 2 days later.
We should have got it, as soon as he got it, we should have got a
so
copy.
so a delay in time getting something, in your opinion, negates the need to actually do our job and review, okay, so it could have
The
taken 8
job is
months.
done.
Steve, you would have had that in April.
So
This
this doesn't
is the
exist,
answer.
this doesn't exist, it's not legally, this does not exist.
It's legal
legally.
for us.
Good for you, 48 hours, it needs to be in
We
48
want a
hours.
decision, we want a decision tonight.
We haven't
Can
even
I
gone to
just
third
say
party.
that Dominic did say in the attachment I read that he had found this on his computer and he had forgotten to forward it to us.
Correct.
So we didn't know that this existed until, I don't know, did you send it to us earlier in the week? So,
second I got it.
just like you, Mr. Morella, we didn't know the existence of this letter until you did. So I'm terribly sorry that
Well,
you didn't see it until now, and neither did we.
So you didn't
Really
get a copy of that
apologize.
till Monday
No.
too?
Second I got it, you got it.
No, he said, do I
He didn't
remember
send it
in
to
his
anybody?
email? He said in his email, I'm very sorry, this has been on my computer for
For 3 months.
however long,
3
and I
months?
didn't send it to you. Am I remembering that correctly?
why the
So
second you
I'm
asked about it-
terribly sorry that you didn't get it, and we didn't get it either.
So again, we didn't get that, you didn't get it,
this,
and then we just got this.
Well, we
Right.
scrambled to get that.
Right, thank
Understood.
you.
But this whole wetland line thing, I mean, we got professionals that do all this work, that's what I pay them for. I don't know what Steve's education is, if he's a wetland guy, an engineer. I pay these professionals to do this work, and I assumed it's right. For someone to say it isn't because
Well-
it doesn't look right,
To say every professional agrees with everyone, I mean, that's kind of silly
Yeah.
too, you know? I
Wow.
mean, I can have 50 engineers, 50 scientists, and then all gonna agree, that's the nature of
no, I'm talking about the
Are they
wetland line.
disagreeing? They're not
No, they aren't.
disagreeing.
They're not. That's the thing. In the beginning of this meeting, I said I don't want to get in the weeds on the details about stormwater and this and that. We need to make a decision tonight on the wetland line. Are we going with the 2003?
Right.
Because that affects the whole thing.
That is the only thing that we need to resolve today.
I
We
agree.
can't approve a project that we haven't even reviewed yet, that we have no reviews
Oh,
back on.
absolutely, yeah.
So,
So
just
we
going circles.
agree the
We want a-
wetland
we
line.
want a decision
We
on the
agree
project
where it
tonight.
was, we agree where it has migrated to, and now what we need to work out is what are we gonna do about the fact that the wetland has crept farther away as a result of the change in the
So-
surface.
So you want us to approve the project when we haven't decided where the wetland line is gonna be?
let alone review it.
Yes,
Really?
yes.
We feel it shouldn't change, it should stay where it is.
Yeah, we,
Feel it shouldn't change.
Well, I
no,
mean,
yeah, I mean, we
Is that
can't,
scientific?
we cannot allow it to
no,
change.
I'm not, that's not my thing.
So I have a laundry list of things, aside from the wetland line, that need clarification. We have no review letters from Jillian, 0. We have no wetland review. I keep
Because
hearing that you want
it's a
to
moot
vote.
point. We feel it's a moot point. The wetland is where it was in 2003 because we're going to restore the grades as prescribed in the cleanup plan that is under your jurisdiction under the enforcement order.
But that's talking the wetland line, that's not talking the performance standards, that's not going through the act and reviewing this, that Jillian does for every project for the commission.
The wetland line it's no longer under review, in my opinion.
But it is under ours, in our.
Well,
opinion.
that's fine, but, so now we want a decision to
On the whole project.
on the whole project, we wanted to.
I just have a question, because this is the project right here?
Oh, yeah.
This is the project.
We didn't talk about any of the house
Okay,
locations.
the house,
We haven't
yeah, we did on
we
the
didn't even
sidewalk.
present anything.
So what I'd like to know is when I was standing right here on number 4 and I was told that that was somebody's living room, I'm not seeing anything on this that says that that was somebody's living room. There's no building over there.
Well, there's a site plan with all the houses and everything somewhere in this office. There's probably 20 of them.
No,
She's holding it. so-
I'm holding it.
The wetland hydrology has changed from that plan.
Right.
Right, okay, but the closest house is over here. And I was standing by number 4, and I was told that that was somebody's living room, or going to be somebody's living room. So I need to know, I can't make a decision if the house is all of a sudden going to shift that much.
The houses
That's
don't
why
move.
we're
No, the
discussing.
houses are
houses
gonna be
don't
on,
move.
the houses are gonna be more than 50 feet away from the wetlands where they were in 2003. We're planning to restore the grades so that the wetlands are where they were in 2003, so they will actually meet.
So you wanna
your-
so ultimately you're gonna fill wetlands?
The new wetlands that have developed, correct,
We're gonna bring back to the
to
original
the
grade.
original grade as prescribed in the
wetland delineation is-
restoration plan.
The wetland delineation has expired. There is no 2013. There was a line on a map from 2003 to 2003 that has expired.
Sure.
And now they're trying to go back in time and say, well, we want to pick the line we want because we want it. Okay, let's do 2003. How about
Well,
2004? How about 1999?
if we restore the grades, then it will put it back to where it was in two
So then
thousand
let's go
three.
back to an enforcement order for a cleanup, because that's where it belongs. We should not be handling a cleanup under, if we want to.
Well, we wanna move this thing along, there's no need to, delay it any further.
So we should amend the EO. If they want to close out the meeting tonight, which I keep hearing, which I don't think is appropriate or necessary, then we should reopen the enforcement order and have enforcement action, because
They
the
didn't
cleanup
finish
wasn't
the,
complete.
finish the cleanup.
You didn't finish the, so
There
as of
shouldn't
right
be debris
now.
out there. Are you
Then let's do that.
disagreeing that there should be alternators and hubcaps and?
This debris issue was taken care of 2 years ago with you guys.
It will get resolved.
Right.
We have an
Right.
agreement that has not been put on
That
an
can
order
be,
of conditions.
that can be a condition in the order of conditions.
That's
So,
exactly.
Gee, that
We
sounds
can
like
re- we can
16
bring-
years ago when everyone said
Yeah.
everything was gonna
we,
go right.
we never closed out the enforcement order, the enforcement action. We can reopen that tonight, re-vote it, and say that the cleanup was not complete, and we will finish it up under an enforcement order, and table this, vote on it, I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter at that point. The EO's open, we can do what we need to do under an EO.
Well-
So you're talking about cleaning up the entire site, including the donated area,
Correct.
everywhere
Revisit.
where there remains the debris that we saw the other night. So that's going to be a significant amount of disturbance. It's going to disturb that wetland too. Whatever that
We're not-
wetland
we're
looks
not-
like now or what it was in the past.
We're not talking restoring the entire, we're not talking about bringing all the little material out, Laura, the whole site. That will be done during the order of conditions for the construction.
Okay, so
We're
I
talking-
heard that from them.
Correct.
What
We're
are
just
you
talk-
talking about?
I'm talking, they are claiming that the cleanup project was not complete due to the grading was not restored to original conditions. They've mentioned that 50 times now. If that's what they want to do, the only place to do that is under the enforcement order that was issued, that's been open forever.
Yeah, why is that the only place to do that?
Because I don't think it's
That
appropriate.
could just be a simple condition in the order of conditions.
In my professional opinion, we have only gone 5% into this project out of the 100% that we need to do to close it out.
Carl, has there ever been any precedence? I mean, regardless
This
of
is
the
a-
fact that this is a unique job, has there ever been any precedence where something has been done not under an EO, where it hasn't been done before?
This has never been done before.
No, not to my recollection.
No?
We haven't done a thorough review. We're being asked to close out cleanup activities when we were promised, they stood over here and promised the cleanup was done. It wasn't done. If that's the argument.
That's
then
all right,
let's
well,
go
I
back
mean,
to
that's
no.
initially why we had a separate, hearing for the cleanup and then for the actual construction. And we ended up with the cleanup into an EO because.
We were asked to withdraw the notice of intent for the project back in 2008, I believe it was.
You lost quorum. It went on
That
for
was
so
the
many
the
years.
same issue,
Lost
Yeah.
quorum.
the Mullen,
Right.
the Mullen
Same
one.
exact
Right,
issue that
so-
we run into.
Couldn't have voted that anyway at that time.
Right. So then we went on to the enforcement order, doing the
So,
cleanup.
I'm actually waiting for you to present what you're gonna do. In other words, you're saying, I want this approved, we're not gonna talk about where the houses are, any of that stuff, it's not gonna even discuss it.
We filed the plans, you have
The
the
houses,
plans.
the house, they're not changing.
This is a
The house
public,
not
this is a
changing.
public hearing.
Yeah.
Maybe the public might like to know
Oh,
what's there.
absolutely. Let 'em-
You don't even have a plan up here, guy.
We
plan
had
has
12
already been
pit
presented.
meetings for the public. I don't know
How many years
much-
ago was that?
No, we presented the plan at the first meeting back
Right.
in July of 2016. That's the plan. You had your review, your third-party reviewers review it, and the stormwater has been resolved. Our engineer has weighed in on the last few issues that your engineer had, and now we're ready to move on.
And the wetland scientist hasn't even reviewed it yet.
She's not coming, by the way, I got an email.
I just did. Thank you.
And the wetland issue, I don't believe is an issue. It's a moot point because if we're going back to the line that was there in 2003, which was approved under a superseding determination of applicability,
It has expired.
then there's no need to review any further. And we realized that when we were reviewing the groundwater, that we agreed to do last fall, that we would do it in the spring. We waited till spring, which we needed to do. That's when the water table is highest. we discovered that the stream that flows through the disturbed area jumped its banks, goes into a depression that was created by the removal of the debris in the soil, and now new wetlands are developing. But that doesn't mean that that's where they should be, and we're going back to the original. So it doesn't require a new delineation. It doesn't require a review of the delineation. In my opinion, the only reviews that are required from your third-party reviewers are stormwater, and now we have that. We got that resolved with Dominic's letter
So you're
and our
telling us
response.
we don't need to know where the wetland line is?
We know where the wetland line is.
Well, no, it's gonna be where you create a wetland line, that's what you're telling me.
where it's supposed to be, where it was supposed to be restored to.
Well, how can we
That's
determine
the
that?
nub of the that's the nub of the problem. That's the whole problem.
And if we
What
put it,
were, may I ask? You said you were coming in here, you were looking for an approval. What were you looking for us to approve? The
The
entire,
entire
project.
entire
The entire
project?
project.
That's not going to happen. I don't feel that we can do that. I still have outstanding questions about the stormwater. I still have outstanding questions about the cleanup, considering that we did see quite a considerable amount of debris out there.
We're gonna beat this huss to death. We already
We
kind of
are.
agreed on how we're gonna handle that.
Right.
So can we get off that, please? Right.
Which part?
The debris. We know
I'm
there's
sorry.
debris to
I
clean up,
agree.
right,
I
right.
agree.
Well,
We've talked about the
does
debris a lot,
the-
and we have a
we
very
have-
important
And that-
question in terms of the grade
Right.
and the fill. So there are far too many huge questions for us to actually, I feel, to actually approve this project this evening. I don't think that was
But we
a
can get a decision
realistic
from that.
expectation.
we can get a decision from you.
You can,
Yeah.
you can certainly can request a
Yep.
decision. Now, talking about debris, which you don't wanna talk about, were you going to take the debris off the town land? Were you going to take
Yes.
the
Yeah,
debris?
I mentioned that the
Just
other night.
said.
I said, yeah, even if we gotta walk out there and pick it by hand so we don't disturb a lot of stuff.
We're just trying to get.
Because
on-
you know, Carl, that out there wasn't that much. There's stuff, I agree. But it's not like where where the action was. There might be a hubcap, a piece, whatever.
There's one other issue I'd like to point out, and there was some disagreement between Dominic and Mr. Christensen, our engineer, regarding infiltration. And I think I gave out all those letters, if I could. I read number 5, and it said, the premise of this comment goes, the drainage calculations don't show any increase in flow, and therefore the infiltration is the same as under pre-development conditions. In Mr. Rinaldi's letter, he said that why should we be worried about infiltration if the site is cleaned up? And this is Mr. Christensen's comment to that. Additionally, site cleanup doesn't mean there aren't some contaminants in the soil. It is possible that infiltrating in a concentrated area could cause any contaminants in the soil to migrate. Infiltration is not needed.
Well, given the fact that we're in a sensitive area near our well field. I think
Absolutely.
there would be some concern to the public, that there might be contaminants and they might migrate somewhere.
I agree,
Just
and,
saying.
and by creating more wetlands, right now, that water starts at a wetland which is above the site, and it goes through in an intermittent stream, it flows through. Now we're talking about creating wetlands that's what they do, they infiltrate water. So you're advocating for infiltrating water in an area that the engineers are arguing about whether or not it's a good idea because there could still be some contaminants. But this is in your water.
If there could be contaminants, it tells me the
We need
cleanup
to
wasn't done
reevaluate.
right.
We need
Well,
to
the
reevaluate the
DEP
cleanup.
says that the cleanup was done right.
Our own engineer is saying it might not be.
No, he's
No,
he's
That
saying.
statement, it said that we don't want to infiltrate because there may be more contaminants down there. If it's clean, then we shouldn't have to worry
Well,
about this beer.
We,
And the
we,
fact-
wa-
Well, I
you
think,
went on- you went
I
on the
think
site.
I
The
might wanna
these
contact
commission members were
the
at the
DEP.
site.
I can
No,
talk.
because I want to find out
myself.
whether the DEP actually went out and inspected that site, not just read reports. I want to know whether they went out there and visually looked at the site.
I can contact Vanessa on
Yeah.
Monday.
I'm really alarmed by that exact section that you just read. It's possible that infiltrating could cause contaminants in the soil to migrate.
I mean, if there
So
are
this is a
solvents, if
big
there are heavy
question
metals,
for us.
we need to know
This
about
is a
that.
big question for us. This is
Absolutely.
our drinking water.
Yes.
Well, we
You know,
just tested the
so-
wells out there again
I
last
agree.
year, and they were fine. They've been clean every time
That's
we tested
great.
them.
But however, you know, we're still talking about soil that might still have contaminants pooled in somewhere.
Keyword might, right?
Exactly.
Right,
And
right.
so, you know, it's our job to kind of take care of the mites.
Didn't we-
Because we need to make sure that anything going into our drinking water, because our town is, we drink that
Yeah,
water.
I
Our
understand,
children
yeah.
drink that water. We need to make sure, as much as we can,
Of course.
that the mites are covered. And this actual sentence in both of these, and I have a note on Dominic's original letter here. Can we say cleanup is complete? Is this, if this is true? And he actually mentioned that there might be spreading of hazardous materials. I understand that we have been round the houses with this, but I would love to go round the houses again and because it's been such a long period of time.
Right.
And things have changed, there's still debris out there.
Did you
We need to
indicate that-
take care of it.
Did you indicate that some of the samples that were done, that there were no water in the
Couple of times, not this last time. Couple of times they
When was
were
that-
dry.
When was that done, the most recent sampling?
You have a copy of it.
So when was the last sampling, sir?
2016,
Thank you.
and we sampled the piece of land out back.
I'm gonna,
because
Were
obviously,
those in all of the wells that we were looking at the other day?
No,
Remember
we
when
were
we
looking
were
at
out
the
there?
monitoring wells for the.
Right.
Those are
Those are
groundwater.
big steel wells that are drilled like 28 feet.
So which
long.
ones were in 2016?
All of them. We do them all.
All,
The,
okay.
the deep ones.
can you re-forward that data to me? It's not ringing a bell, but I get 1,000 emails a day.
Okay.
Please just forward that 2016 well data, because it's not ringing a bell.
any more immediate questions from commissioners? I want to open it up to the public, if there's anyone who'd like to make a comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please identify yourself for the record. 47.
George Kaminsky, 45 Old Jacobs Road. Yeah, I'm kind of confused too about the wetland line, because the commission waits over the winter period not to delineate a wetland line. So if they're saying this is where the wetland line is going to be, why did we have to wait six months? I mean, to me, every 3 years you're entitled to a new wetland delineation. And I think the commission has resources. They have the DEP circuit rider to back up what Mr. Seecamp is saying. You have MACC at your disposal too. And you know, I'm also confused on how we're going by the old stormwater regulations when they were updated 2008, and how these standards are being met. And we know that there's high groundwater levels there. That's why all the houses are being put on slabs. You know, so I mean, I haven't seen anything but one plan. There's no gradient changes. Usually see like 4 or 5 sheets showing gradient changes and where the test pits have been dug and things like that. So, I mean, I was questioning in my letter about what are the groundwater levels near the infiltration basins. I mean, we're calling them infiltration basins, but are they really if they're going to be called for being lined? I mean, if these infiltration basins are lined, they're not infiltrating anything, so what's the storage capacity? I also brought up the fact that we're now putting a catch basin on West Street and bringing water in from the hill and bringing it onto the site, onto the trench. So to say that we don't need any pre or post runoff calculations because nothing in the site is going to change. I mean, I really, you know, we're not involved with these discussions between the engineers, but to me it doesn't make any sense that we're not changing anything, going from scattered junk around the site to building footprints in streets. I mean, I'd really like to question our BSC peer reviewer on that. You know, this just doesn't make sense to me.
I'd like to answer your first question, why did we wait, why did we allow it to go till spring to review the wetlands?
Well, that's the regulations, that's the rules.
Well,
Commission.
I'm going to explain to you why. I was not aware that the grades had changed when we agreed to do the groundwater monitoring wells. And therefore, that was an appropriate way to determine where we have wetland hydrology, and if it had changed. Or if my new delineation, which was very close to the old 2003 delineation, because I was familiar with the site. I did the delineation in late November of 2015, I think it was. So we decided that that would be appropriate. And then when I started to see not only the water in our wells being at the surface of the ground, but the water actually jumping out of the finger-like wetland that goes through the site, it was jumping over and going into this area that had been cleaned up. I knew that wasn't right, so I started to look around, and I saw a tree that was left on the site, and it was on a berm that was about this high. So I thought, well, all the soil around it was taken out. So that's going to change the hydrology, because as I said in the beginning of my presentation was, the main difference between a wetland and an upland is how much soil is on top of the water table. And therefore, when you remove the soil, you get closer to the water table. And that's what happened. And going back to the original cleanup plan, which is under the enforcement order, it said that the grades would be restored. And so that's how we got to this point, where we feel that the correct place for the wetlands is where they were in 2003, because there's no other reason for the wetlands to have changed other than the fact that we removed the soil because of the cleanup of the junkyard.
I mean, I still implore the commission to talk to DEP Circuit Rider and MACC on this. I mean, I'm not aware of being able to fill in wetlands to bring a wetland line back to.
Yeah, that's, again, that's kind of unusual. I mean, from my perspective, you know, we just kind of want to gloss over everything and just move forward at this point. I mean, we're still talking about that reference by your own engineer that could be contaminants. We're trying to figure out this final location of the wetland. I certainly understand where your perspective is. And we kind of are just glassing over the layout of the project. It's like you're not really coming and presenting and saying, okay, this is the final project, this is what it's gonna look like, this is where we want the wetland. It's just kind of like, well, let's go and approve it. Let's move on. Yes?
Hi, my name's Jean Mulligan. I'm Jean Mulligan, and I live at 48 West Street. And we bought our property in 1963, so I've lived through the junkyard my whole life. My father used to be the one that would be here, so he has since passed. I'm kind of confused because it's almost like they want to take a little bit out of pre-2003 and some things new now. And the last I can remember was they left and nothing's been done. And I can remember things were supposed to be done and hearing about fines because things weren't being moved and all that. And why wasn't the grading done, finished in 2003? And why come back 14 years later and expect to pick up where you left off?
Well, there clearly was some periods of lapses that occurred over those years where you folks were kind of few and far.
Well, we didn't get signed off from DEP to 2012, so we were doing whatever we had to do to get clean to that point.
But
Risk
even
assessments.
before that.
Pardon me?
So even before, because are you the third?
Pardon me?
Are you the third developer?
No.
The second?
Yeah.
Because was there somebody else in with you and you split off with
Yeah,
by
well,
yourself?
he
Yep.
split off, yeah.
Yep. So I can, like I said, I have a lot of this and I have a lot of my father's
Yeah.
records and things like that going through this, but there was a lot of, even through the cleanup time and everything, there
Yeah.
was a lot of standstill and
Yeah.
you weren't doing your job then.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why the grading and everything wasn't done. In
Well,
2003, you wouldn't be going through this now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting these people on the spot. Yeah, laws change, and they
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Well, we're not putting anybody on the spot. I disagree with you, but, and we
Seems
could.
it tonight. I don't go to
Yeah,
many town
yeah.
meetings, and this is a lot for me, but it
Yeah.
definitely seems you coming in and doing this, and
Mhm.
you can't live in 2003, it's 2017.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's gonna be a lot of fill put back in there anyway, or cause you're not gonna leave it the way it is, I mean, I'm
That-
assuming.
No, but that's what the commission has to decide, whether you go with what the wetlands are now,
With
or what they
the big
were,
hole.
or you go with what was in 2003. That's, in the beginning, I said that was the commission has to give some feedback tonight. That's the biggest thing right now. What is the wetland line we're gonna go with? What it is now, or what it is in 2003? There's arguments for both. If you decide to go with 2003, then yes, wetlands will be filled. You're setting a pretty huge precedence allowing wetland to be filled with no mitigation. There's an argument for it. If you understand and agree with that argument, then you go to 2003. In my opinion, they told us it was clean. Now they want the line to be different. They're gonna say, oh, no, we didn't actually clean it up. We want to keep it before. It's back and forth so much. I think we should go with the 2017. If they want to open up the can of worms and say, we want to go with the 2003, that means the cleanup wasn't done appropriately. We need to take a step back and reevaluate the entire.
See, if there wouldn't be new wetlands being created from the activity there, and you could easily, say, we want to bring it back to the original wetland line, but now it's been so many years, this is a unique case, because it's occurred over decades, literally, that you're actually producing new wetlands, and it's kind of a precedent to say, okay, we want to bring it back to this original line, but we're gonna have to fill wetlands to do that.
Right, but if they go in and sift another foot, everything's gonna be disturbed anyway.
That's gonna happen no matter what. No
That's
matter
right.
what you guys decide, 2 feet of the entire thing is gonna be disturbed.
1 foot.
It will be accumulated
Well,
2 feet
From
between
the
the
original
two
grade.
sites.
Yeah, right,
I think-
exactly,
yeah,
right,
From the
right,
original
right.
grade, yeah.
And there are some areas in the roadway that cuts and fills, there's some 3-foot fills, cuts, so.
That's an
Over-
average. 2
Yeah,
feet is
right,
an average.
right, yeah.
I would like a little more clarity on what is the safest way forward for the hydrology of the area that may stabilize whatever contaminants might
So we
still
don't
be
have that-
lingering out there. We don't have
we
that
don't have that data.
information. I know we don't have that
There's no
data.
one qualified
And
this
so
line that
when,
can say it. No one here can answer that. No one in
so
this room
when
can
we're
answer that.
deciding whether to go back to 2003 or work with it as it is now, I would just like to know, what are the ramifications in terms of contaminants and safety, et cetera, for those 2 actions? Is it possible to know that?
Well,
Or
the-
get an idea,
I mean,
to
I'm
get
not
some
sure
kind
who
of
you-
idea?
Who you ask? Are you asking Jillian to answer that? I mean, who? There's no yes or no answer
It-
to that, Laura.
oh.
No one. I don't think. I mean, you're talking safety.
I know
People still
there's
think
no
that a lot of
yes
these
or no,
chemicals are
like
safe.
what are we
I know.
weighing
I mean,
against
more
each
wetlands,
other?
to me, more wetlands are always better. More wetlands are better. They infiltrate more contaminants.
A good
healthy
point, a good
one.
point. The infiltration
Sir,
is-
can I finish, or are you going to interrupt everyone all night? A good wetland with good buffer will protect more than anything else. We've talked about increasing our regulations to have bigger buffers. Vernal pools have bigger buffers to protect more. So the answer is the existing wetland would provide more protection. The buffer would get smaller, but we're not talking houses yet. We're talking where the wetland line is. A bigger wetland would have more protection. Bigger buffers help too, but we haven't even started that discussion yet. All we're talking about is wetlands. All we're talking about is wetlands. We're talking about filling in a wetland that exists right now. The commission's never allowed that in the past, not once. More wetlands typically is better for the environment.
I agree,
We typically-
especially if it's a
never, to my
very
knowledge.
healthy and vegetated wetland.
Which this one
and
will.
it- And.
Well, eventually, it isn't yet.
Exactly. However, never mind.
Keep in mind, we're
So,
running,
you know,
we're running
no,
really
from-
late on this
From
hearing.
my knowledge, we haven't authorized a fill. This is a unique project.
I mean, oh gosh, fill, restore, fill, and this paragraph in their engineer's letter
No.
is a little persuasive,
That scares me.
isn't it?
But it doesn't persuade me to not look at the stormwater regulations and follow
Oh,
them.
no, I'm not saying we're not
It
looking at
persuades me,
stormwater.
it provides me to really question whether the site's clean,
Yes,
period.
so,
But I'd be interested to see some of the data behind this. I mean, just to make statements that, you know, again, won't increase flow or will increase flow or contaminants. I mean, quantitative
know.
data. I mean, this is kind
we
of,
have people on both sides arguing that it will, it won't.
they're arguing at each other without providing us, the decision makers here, with any actual hard data.
But this point number 4, where he says that, talking about, redoing the hydrologic calculations after extreme disturbance has taken place in the middle of a project. That, I am kind of thinking that is a fair argument. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I think there's some validity to the argument that it's disturbed. I just think it's not reasonable or realistic to say that it's equivalent to a forested, wooded, natural area. There has to be somewhere in between. I think all our engineer is saying is, you know, meet us halfway, be reasonable. This is not a forested, you know, soft, fluffy, loamy soil. It's compacted. It doesn't drain as well as natural setting. But you cannot say that that's the same as a paved, you know, look at the plan. These cul-de-sacs are enormous. There's a ton of pavement. I think it's, if they try to meet halfway in the middle, you can be like, yeah, that's being reasonable. But saying, no, it's not going to change, it is borderline laughable. And that's what our engineer brought up. And just because their engineer says, yeah, we disagree, doesn't make them right. It still has to get worked out. And by the way, this memo doesn't count. It was given to us 3 hours ago.
I know.
It just,
I
we
agree.
can read it, we can talk about it, but it's not on the record formally, and it shouldn't have even been entered into this discussion.
But we are discussing it.
I noticed that.
But you're not meeting the regulations by our
Yep.
requirements.
Your local regulations.
Well, I'm still waiting for you to present the whole project to me.
We already did last July.
I'm asking you to do, what did you tell me last July?
I'm not gonna repeat it. We presented the project. We had we showed the plans. You have the plans.
Actually, you asked for that again last meeting. You asked for them to present it again.
Interesting, okay.
So Carl, we're running really behind with a bunch of other cases and a bunch of other work to do. I was hoping to at least get some clarification on the wetland. So I guess to Laura's concern, if we don't know what's better for the environment and the safety of the public, the 2003 or the 2017, that was my main goal for tonight, was to get an answer to that, because this is the third meeting we've discussed it. If the commission's not comfortable saying 2003 or 2017, then that, the meeting gets continued to just to
Well, if
resolve that.
What do we
they're demanding a
We want a
vote.
decision. We want a decision.
What do we need to understand that?
Laura, you don't have enough information to make a decision on any aspect of this project. If they're demanding, they're pretty much forcing a denial.
They're basically, I'm asking them to present the, review the case with me, the file. He doesn't wanna do that. We don't have all the information. We're just presented with stuff a couple hours before the meeting. I mean, and I'm asking for more details.
So,
And then,
you
their
want
own
us to
letters,
vote
their
on
own
the
letters
entire
indicate that
project this evening?
their own letters give me evidence that the cleanup may not be complete.
Then, if you're gonna hold our feet to the fire like that,
Well, I think that's what they're looking for, my opinion, but that's,
So I take it we're not gonna get a decision on the wetland line 2014. So-
well, we can make that call, but
Well, Laura wasn't I don't wanna do it if Laura wasn't I mean, we don't need Laura to vote on it, but I think it's important for all commissioners to have their concerns satisfied. If you're saying you're not comfortable voting on that, then we can put that to the side. What I'm hearing the applicant say is that you are not interested in continuing to the next meeting. I think we should continue so we can answer the 50 questions I've heard from the residents and from the commission. You're saying that you don't wanna continue, is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
So you would like a vote, where we have no information to make a decision. So the only recommendation that I can give in good conscience is a denial for the 50 reasons that we've been talking about tonight, and I have 50 more that I can type up into it.
I would like to enumerate them before a vote.
Correct.
We need to, make a, a very clear accounting of our thinking.
Okay.
So I can go through my list, and if,
Okay,
I think we should, commissioners, if they have anything else, chime in, because I didn't pick on everything. So my laundry list is, lack of clarification regarding multiple comments by both engineers regarding question whether the site is cleaned up or not. And evidence was provided by the applicant suggesting the cleanup was not completed.
Clean it, and can you?
Mind if I finish, sir? You can comment.
Go
at the
ahead,
end.
go ahead.
I'd love to get interrupted, but not tonight.
Okay.
The stormwater review has not been completed, and some major outstanding issues have been identified by our third-party reviewer. Third-party reviewer for the wetland delineation we have not received a single memo regarding any aspect of the review of the Wetland Protection Act and the wetland line. The applicant is refusing to give an overview of the project after over a year of not.
And I don't
We
mean
haven't
just
heard this in a
handing
year.
me a plan and say, here it is. I'm talking about a
Site plan
presentation.
doesn't have enough detail to really understand and clearly discern what the project's proposing. The lack of grading, the lack of details on stormwater to an abutter's comment. I'm used to seeing these things with 60 pages. We got one sheet.
I asked for sample data.
Sample data was not provided. 2016 sample data was not provided. A request to reach out to the circuit rider regarding clarification on wetland filling in this situation, which we've never dealt with this before. I think it's important to get some DEP, since that's what we're doing this under, is DEP clarification on, does this count? Is it kind of grandfathered in or not?
And also the fact that any delineations that were done are expired.
Correct. And they're not willing to kind of work with confirming that line, in my opinion.
I still have questions
Okay.
about,
Shoot.
infiltrating potentially contaminants
So I just
into
wanna-
the well fields.
I just want to clarify for 1 second. We're in deliberation at this point. The commission is about to make a motion and vote. The applicant, the butters, the concerns, everyone does not get another chance to follow up. The commission's in the process of deliberating. So there is no follow-up from anyone on that side of the table. The commission is going to be kind of taking the lead on this motion.
Yeah, I mean,
Anything
you
else,
can
Norm?
raise the issue as part of the deliberation.
But that's part of my,
No, that's what you're
that's
saying.
part of my concern.
She did not
Right.
get
Right,
any
I don't have
clarification on
the, I
infiltration.
don't.
Exactly.
Right,
And specifically regarding this fear of bringing up contaminants that aren't supposed to be there in the first
and
place.
near the well fields.
Anything else, Laura? I mean, there's a lot here.
Yeah,
Any other commissioners as far as things that they brought up that they didn't get resolved, or questions that you have that didn't get resolved through the process?
Well, I mean, from my perspective,
No.
again, verification and other information from DEP that did they actually come out to the site to do their approval?
So
They do
not
it-
20 on each people, but
This was done completely under the LSP program. I know obviously they were involved for a number of years in terms of the cleanup, but did they come out and take a look at the site? Look
were
at the
they aware
debris?
that grades weren't done properly? Because they might be very concerned about that.
in this letter from March 16th, it says the applicant should clarify if there are any elements of the stormwater and our engineering design that are not in conformance with the bylaw and the regulations. And it says afterwards that there's been no response.
Can you repeat that again, Laura? That's important. So
It's
the third-party review.
It's here, it's number 1, from BSC.
Yep.
And it says, the NOI narrative states that the project has been approved by the town of Georgetown ZBA as a Chapter 40B. As such, the applicant should clarify if there are any elements of the stormwater and/or engineering design that are not in conformance with the bylaw and/or regulations.
Thank you.
And there's
That was
been
not
no
provided.
response. Also, for number 2, it says, the October 13th, 2016 letter should be reviewed for any impacts it may have on the engineering or stormwater management design. Of particular concern is the potential for revising the wetland line and how it may impact portions of the project, and it says no response has been provided. So more
Okay.
lack of information again.
I'll highlight kind of at the top, it's lack of information, and then
Okay.
all the information that was not provided and all the other concerns.
I haven't-
I mean, from my perspective, I think the commission would be perfectly willing to, after 16 years to work with the applicant, and we went through an awful lot to try and get this cleaned up. We could have denied this project. We ended up with an enforcement order for umpteen years because of the way it was handled initially from the applicant's side. Not saying these individuals, but the original folks that were involved in this. And, we come to the last part of this, and now it's just ram it through without providing, closure and details and information. I mean, again, this is an important site. It's right near our well fields, and I think in terms of due diligence, the commission needs to, make sure we have the follow-through, but, we're being requested regardless to come up with a decision with less than full information, so.
I also, under number 4 in this letter, it says, towards the end of our comments at the end, or BSE's comments at the end, it's talking about runoff. The change of existing conditions to fair, or the change of post-development conditions to poor, result in increased peak runoff rate under post-development conditions. Again, runoff.
Not meeting the regs.
Okay.
So I have all those, so
I'll
I can add,
stop.
I'll add those all to the denial.
Okay.
We just need a
Entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to deny the NOI
State NOI.
for 47 West Street, DEP 1610826, under the Wetland Protection Act only,
for all the reasons stated.
for all reasons as just enumerated.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to deny the notice of intent under the state act for 47 West Street for the reasons listed by Steve. Is there any further discussion? Again, from my perspective, I'd certainly be willing to work with the applicant, but they're trying to, force our hand and not really walk through the process. Good faith, I certainly would be willing to work with them on it, but it's like, we want a decision, let's move forward. For 16 years, we held this thing open for you guys, but so be it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to close. Notice of intent for 47 West Street.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the notice of intent for 47 West Street,
Something beautiful.
That's fine, of course.
1610826, under the Wetland Protection Act only.
Here a sec. Motion has been seconded to close the notice of intent for 47 West Street. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Thank you.
Carl, the project for Parish Road is requesting a continuation.
Okay.
I forgot to print up a document for the project we just closed out, so I'm gonna run downstairs real quick and print that. You guys can move on to the 4 Grapevine. You won't.
Well, I've got open parish, and we got to continue it.
Can we do that? Okay, so you can do that, and then get to the Grapevine. I'll be back in 2 minutes. You won't need me.
All
for
right. Anything on or after 7:30, I'm going to reopen the notice of intent for 66 Parish Road, GCC 2016-21, and that's a 10-lot subdivision on a 40-acre parcel, and 11th lot, as well as remaining 28 would be acres would be donated to the town of Georgetown, and the applicant has requested that we continue this. There is some work going on behind the scenes to try and move this along, but I think at this point we'll,
I'm sorry, I spaced out. Why are we waiting?
well, they're requesting us to continue it, so.
Yes, I understand. Are we waiting for a review or?
No,
Do
it's
we know
purely
why?
on, they're kind of regrouping in terms of planning. There's been some changes, I guess, on their side, not
Oh.
anything to do with us at
Oh.
all.
Awesome.
So, we're
Lovely.
ready to move forward with that. It's that they, looking at their whole project and trying to reassess it. So we're happy to move it forward, but they're not ready yet. So let's jump on July 20th, I guess, again, and maybe 7:30.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue 66 Parish Road, July 20th at 7:30.
Second.
Is there a motion? There's a motion. It's been seconded to continue the notice of intent for 66 Parish Road to July 20th at 7:30. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining. All right. And I'm gonna wait for Grapevine till Steve comes back, since this is a new
We have plans, though.
NOI.
He actually said we could go ahead.
Uh,
Plans.
But Steve's my minute taker, so I wanna make sure we capture this too. Is the applicant here from Grapevine?
Yes.
Well, I guess we could open it. I trust you, sort of.
All right.
Sort of. And it being on or after, what's the time supposed to be for this one?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I know. I wanna be at 7:40, no, 7, where's it on here? Is it on here?
Yeah, I think we're 7:40.
7:40.
7:40. It being on or after 7:40, I'm going to open up a new notice of intent for 4 Grapevine Circle, AKA Lot 11 Turning Leaf, at GCC 2017-05. If I could have the applicant and a consultant, and if you could identify yourself, Greg, for the
Good
record.
evening. For the record, Greg Hockmuth from Williams and Sparagus.
And you have some cards, green cards for us? I'm just gonna leave them over in Steve's neck of the woods.
We even have a file number and no comments.
Okay.
Everybody remembers the Turning Leaf subdivision, correct?
Oh, yeah.
It's over off Searle
Yes.
in that neck of the woods.
I can't find the 100.
So it's very faint.
It is.
It's right here.
Is that it? Okay, thank you.
So this is one of the lots in the subdivision, lot 11, which is on the cul-de-sac for Grapevine Circle. There's BVW out back, which is shown here in this dashed green line. Cul-de-sac is here. I only colored what was in the buffer zone between the existing limit of work, which is the 50-foot no disturb, and the 100-foot buffer zone. I colored that in green. We're here tonight asking for approval to construct a small portion of the dwelling, a small portion of the proposed deck, stairs, patio, and portion of pool, and upgrading within the 100-foot buffer zone. The structures are all proposed outside of the 75-foot no build.
Mm-hmm.
Steve asked us to kick it back an extra 5 feet, which we did to accommodate his request.
So just as, or is there any reason why it can't move a few more feet, or is, is that just,
Yeah,
is that a deck, or is that part of the actual, like a?
So this lighter brown here is a small deck. It would be over proposed patio. It would be patio underneath. It's really tight, as you can see. We went with a free-form pool just to fit it in, a very small deck beyond it. It's only 3 feet behind the pool. Closest corner of the pool would be 83 feet to the wetlands, plus or minus. It would be a non-backwash filtration system, a cartridge filter, so nobody would be dumping into the resource area. The bulk of the limit of work was approved during the actual definitive subdivision process, so we're not proposing to push that back any further. But because of the front setback requirements, septic system location, side setback, we really tried to squeeze this thing in there and still give them usable space in the rear yard.
Yeah, in these kind of tight projects, this is kind of where we like to use things like stone bounds, only kind of for future reference, so when people start mowing in the direction, when they bump into the stone bounds, they say, oh, maybe I should stop.
So I believe markers were part of the original subdivision approval.
Yeah.
Are there elevation lines on here, but
There
part
are.
of this site is really, this area is really steep.
So this actually slopes off pretty gentle. The existing grades are dashed here, and these are 2-foot contours. This elevation back here, this is the 96, this is the 94, and this is the 92.
Okay.
So it's not, this probably isn't one of the steep ones that you're remembering.
Yeah.
The soils were actually really decent. There was a 6-minute per inch perk rate.
Now, this is not natural heritage area, is it or not?
This lot was not.
Was it any part of Turning Leaf?
I believe so.
I don't remember that going by.
No, I think part of the subdivision approval required the certification of a couple of vernal pools that were out there, and we've actually been monitoring those, and we have the evidence.
So you have not certified them? I think
No,
there's
the first year we went
2
out-
years, there was like 2 years requirement, do within 2 years, but
The first year we went out, we couldn't find any evidence. It was too dry.
it's a rough
But
year.
we have the evidence now.
Okay.
So you're planning on doing that soon?
Yes, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the work in the buffer zone, it's,
So is this an above ground pool or is this
so this
just
would be
No,
an in-ground
in-ground.
pool.
in ground? And what kind of a filtration system, since we're right in a buffer, we're gonna have like what kind of backwash filtration, we're gonna have some-
Non-backwash filtration system would be a cartridge filter. Yeah, there'd be no need to backwash.
Yeah, I don't really want the chlorine water going into the resource,
Right.
if we can help it.
And for the most part, you know, a lot of the pool companies now, they're putting in cartridge filters now 90% of the time. At least that's my understanding. You're gonna see a lot more of those.
What kind of patio surface? Is it a pervious surface?
No, so we're proposing the worst case, which would be concrete. More than likely, it's gonna result in some type of a paver patio. People claim that paver patios aren't like pavement, but in my opinion, they're just about like pavement. You get a little bit of infiltration through them, but not much.
So can we condition this so that it's planted around the downhill edge of that patio to?
And it's disturbed with native
Yeah.
plantings?
Mm-hmm.
So that's proposed to be maintained lawn. There's a 50-foot undisturbed buffer zone between the limit of work and the wetland.
So show me where the lawn is gonna be, the
Everything I
proposed-
have colored here in this green color.
Everything, okay.
Which, to be honest, it's on average maybe a 40-foot strip behind the house. It's not a very large lawn area.
How big's the whole lawn now?
43,000
Okay,
square
just-
feet, a little over an acre.
yeah, just a
And is that woods beyond the green that you've marked there?
So this is the 50-foot no disturb.
Yeah, so
It's
is
the
it
current limit
woods
of
or
work.
what is it?
There's no work proposed
No
back
disturb,
there.
I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
But is it, as far
Not
as it,
thinking
is
clearly.
in the buffer, is that actually a wooded buffer, is there, is it grassy, I mean, what does it look like out there?
Good question, Tom. Do you have any idea what the growth is like beyond the hay bill? I think it's pretty much wooded. Yeah, that's what I remember too. Yeah, there's been no
it's
work
heavily
back
wooded,
there.
so-
Yeah.
Okay,
The whole area was clear cut right up to that silt fence.
Yep.
It's-
gosh, was it
And
ever?
we'd be proposing to reinvestigate that line, and if there's any repairs needed to that erosion, those erosion controls, we do that, obviously, with pre-construction hearing prior to.
Yeah, so I'd like to put some bounds on that, but again, if we're gonna make this lawn area, so we don't have, Mission Creek here with the lawn,
Mhm.
I'd like to have some bounds along that edge of the grass there.
Along the 50-foot line?
Right here?
Yeah, no disturb.
Oh, so you want markers.
50-foot no disturb.
Because what we find with the smaller backyards is people just, it's not ideal, they try to grow them. We just had an EO on this kind of thing, people,
Yeah.
that's why we try to work with developers to not squeeze the house in so they have a 10-foot backyard, because people don't like that. And I know sometimes lots are that way, but this just kind of is a reminder, hard reminder to say, okay, don't go beyond that, so.
Now, does this commission,
Literally a hard reminder, granite.
do you guys still require granite, or is this something that could be pressure treated with placard on it?
I think it
It's
says concrete or granite.
Okay.
2 foot,
I mean,
4 foot, 2
most-
feet in, 2 feet out, or
Most people do
granite.
granite just because it looks nicer than concrete.
Yeah, we don't like,
Nothing allows pressure treated or any wood.
we don't like the wood, cause you know, 10, 15 years from now, eventually it will rot away too. I mean, it, obviously not as quickly as regular wood, but, you know, we have cases of people complaining that they run their lawnmowers into the granite as they mow around them.
Yeah, right.
Greg, we installed granite throughout
Yeah.
throughout the whole subdivision, so
But, you know, I mean, it's,
no problem staying with that.
yeah, I mean, perpetuity, they last, you know, long, obviously forever, so.
We can work out the location outside of the meeting. We can condition it, because it's not on the plan, but we'll just put in a condition that stone buns will be placed
Yeah.
according to the specifications and the regulations.
Now, I understand that it's a small backyard and a lawn area, but I still, like Laura said, would like to see a few plantings there just in case for deeper roots, just to grab anything that might come up. And it would look better too and give you more privacy as well.
Well, I mean, we'd like to propose the lawn. I mean, a 50-foot undisturbed vegetated buffer, upgrading that BVW it should be more than enough. Putting plantings, I mean, they may decide to do some landscape plantings, but to condition that and force them into that, it just seems a little unreasonable to me.
What kind of plantings were you thinking about? What,
I was thinking about just regular, it doesn't even have to be
Like shrubbery or trees? Like
shrubbery,
what's
not trees,
basic,
shrubbery, you know, anything that you see typically around a nice in-ground pool, like several different kinds of evergreen trees, you know, things that create a screen but have a root system that can pick up any
I guess,
What
you
do
know, the
you
way.
think about the comparison between the grass buffer and a garden like we were thinking of? Do
I
you
mean,
think
it's-
that's?
more vegetation is always better. You know, lawn is better than asphalt, but more vegetation is better than lawn. I'll be honest with you, this meets the regulations. The 50-foot buffer, you know, the science behind it, it's a good buffer. The commission doesn't have much to demand. There's no waivers being requested. Usually, that's a restoration, that's increased. Say you want to put a pool at 20 feet where 75 is required. You have more leverage to say, we need more buffer, we need more protection. This meets the regs. Our regs say 50 feet is enough. If the commission doesn't feel like 50 feet's enough, which honestly I think 50 feet, we need more than 50 feet, then we change the regs to say 75 feet.
I mean,
This is 50, it's what the regs
Yeah,
say.
and I think if we put the hard bounds in, I mean,
Yeah.
that buffer is going to, you know, stay maintained and
I mean, the
And
vegetation's always great. More is always, always better. If they're willing to do it,
I'm just thinking
absolutely
deeper
do it.
roots than just grass.
But I'm thinking as well that grass is likely to be there longer and taken well care of, whereas not everybody, I think that's more reliable maybe than a garden that perhaps isn't that well
I'm not
taken
talking
care
about
of,
a
I don't
garden.
know.
I'm talking about like an
Naturalized.
arborvitae or something like that, you know, you can put in there and have.
Right.
well, the way I guess
I
you
think
could also handle that is
I'm
if Greg and Steve out in the field, you know, as they look at this and figure out there's something necessary, well, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm okay with the way it is.
And especially since the grade isn't as steep as I originally thought it might be, having from some of the other sites that we went to.
It looked a little bit like the moon out there for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah, I
looks
mean-
great now.
I mean, if it was like that,
It
right, if it
does.
was like that
Yeah.
right now and it was completely all, you know, like a moonscape, then I would, you know, be in favor of the,
Or if there's waivers being requested, you know, trust me, I'm all for more plantings, better plantings. It's allowed by law. If we don't like that, we should request the law be changed.
Might I
you know,
ask why it's in here then if no waivers are being asked?
Cause it's in our jurisdiction. This is probably the first
It's
no waiver
within the
plan you've
100.
ever seen.
We wanted
I'm
to
in
make it easy
shock
for you guys.
at
Wow.
this point.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's the first plan that I've seen that actually has no waivers being requested in a very long time. So anything within the 100-foot buffer is in our jurisdiction, doesn't support waivers.
You know what? The fact that you came in here, I take it back. I take
Thank
back
you.
about the trees. The fact that you just came in here, mind blown.
Well, I wouldn't have
Okay.
signed their building permit, so they kinda had to come in.
So, if there are no more, I'll
And they
open
know
it up.
that.
Is there any butters to, for Grapevine? Yay, nay?
Christos Liveropoulos, 3 Grapevine Circle.
You have any concerns, comments?
No, we had a discussion before the meeting, and I think we had a couple of answers, questions, and they were answered. So
Very good.
very good with that.
Any further comments, discussions?
So my only condition I put in is just that the stone bounds are placed.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
pass it by me as far as locations.
And you said DEP had no comments, correct?
No comments. Yep.
All right.
This was a fast one. I do have one request, and I always hate to give this little push.
Here's the second shoe. Here it comes.
But if this is going to get approved tonight,
You don't want it approved tonight.
we would love to receive an order of conditions before the end of the month, only because
Oh,
it's a
that's-
closing pending.
No, you'll have it Monday.
Awesome.
I have it pre-written.
Thank you.
Yeah, they signed the signing sheet tonight. Any special conditions get put in Monday. I'll call you to pick it up versus
Great.
mailing it. You can have it Monday by noon.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Service.
Man,
Super
we
service.
rock, man.
Well, I do it, not just for these guys. I do it for everybody.
But
not
I'm
just you.
just- I'm honestly still in awe. I know what you just said, but I'm still in awe that somebody came
Well,
in
he
here
had
ahead
to.
of
He
time.
had
had
to.
to.
They're not allowed to do anything unless he comes
I know,
here.
but still, it's awe-inspiring because usually it's you're dragging them in
Someone's
here.
following the law.
I
Okay.
know.
I'll entertain a
I would
motion.
like to make a
I-
motion that
yes.
we approve the NOI. Imagine for 4 Great Brown Circle, AKA Lot 11, Turning Leaf, GCC 2017-05. Do we have a DEP number?
0839.
Thank you. What do you say?
With the 50,
With the
Oh,
stone
sorry.
bounds.
With the
With
50
the inclusion of the stone bounds at the 50-foot.
To be
Second.
locate, right, the
For
location
the
determined by.
no cut, no disturb. To be located in the field with our agent.
Very
second.
good. Motion, and it's been seconded to
3 times.
approve the notice of intent for 4 Grapevine Circle, AKA Lot 11 Turning Leaf, with the stone bounds being located on the 50-foot locations to be determined by our agent. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? I'll entertain a motion to close the notice of intent for 4 Grapevine Circle.
Make a motion to close the notice of intent for Grapevine Circle.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to close the notice of intent for 4 Grapevine Circle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining?
Love.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
You too. And what else do we have?
Did you guys do Parish Road?
Yes,
When did you continue it to?
7:30, the 20th at 7:30,
Thank you very much.
July 20th, 7:30.
Here's the order of conditions that you just approved, which you sign. And do you want to introduce yourself to the commission and come up and say hi?
What up?
Long
Yeah,
meeting,
why
sorry
not?
about that.
Well, this is an easy one. Say, hi, I'm Richard Mullen, and
Richard, how are you?
considering the, I'm not sure now, you guys are so advanced. It's been a while since I've been involved in anything like this, so very impressed. My concern is that you have tolerance and patience for people like me.
That's why they have me. I do a lot of training.
Yeah, and
I don't have any. I just want to tell you that I have no tolerance or patience.
She's absolutely correct.
Yes.
all right.
You'll sit
That's
near
one.
me.
Yeah,
not
one,
near her.
2. Are you really mean? Well, that's good.
Oh, I can be.
Yeah,
very-
no, that's cool. I noticed. Well, anyhow, that's it. If you have any questions for me, I'm just kind of considering this, and I wanted to see if my.
This is a challenging board to serve on.
It is, yeah,
because, especially, when you're asked to look at complex engineering plans late at night, and you may have worked all day or what have you, and you're dealing with engineers and attorneys and all kinds of folks like that. It does require you to have a certain level of commitment, and it's almost like it takes a couple of years before people figure out kind of what's going on, the way hearings are going, the process, the way the commission operates under the law, the way we run a public hearing, et cetera.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's what I noticed. I noticed that it's a pretty in-depth group of people, and then you guys have been around for a while on this commission?
3 years.
3? All right.
Or how long?
17?
17.
17?
I've been a commissioner for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, I guess, but I've actually worked for the commission for 3 or 4
Oh,
years.
okay, so yeah, because you had some expertise there, and that's what, I just wanted to balance and consider my expertise, and if I'm really offering anything, rather than
So,
taking away.
what is your background in terms?
Well, probably 20, 25 years ago, I was much more involved in this type of thing in construction and building. I was on the other side of the table, and did projects probably in the 80s in Boxford,
Okay.
and went through that process. And
The Wetland Protection Act itself hasn't changed all that much over the years. It's the issue that we work with is our bylaw mostly. Although it doesn't change much, we tend to, in most hearings, except for one of them here, we have like dual hearings. When we open a hearing, even like this one that we just had, it's actually a local hearing and a state hearing at the same time simultaneously. So we, in many cases, rely on the bylaw because it's more stringent, and it has to be legal. You can't look to a local regulation that's less stringent than the state or the federal regulation. It's not applicable then, so it has to be more stringent.
Okay.
So,
But I think just observing it, and I appreciate it, and it definitely is something to consider. And I do want to think about it, because there is a lot of commitment to this, I can see that.
But we are you're a teacher, I'm a designer, Ray,
I'm a peddler.
you're a pet, she's a peddler, she's in sales, Carl knows everything.
I know. I work professionally in environmental health and safety. So.
And, is that right? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. So you get couple of experts there.
and we get excellent support from Steve.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I thought that you didn't get left hanging at all. Yeah.
I mean, it's one meeting a month, but they're intense meetings. This
Sure.
one's 9 o'clock. Sometimes we get out 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've been going. We have a lot of continuations lately,
And
so
the
it helps about.
short hearings can be just like we had, very short one, move right through them. And other ones can be, again, years that go by. I mean, it just depends on the nature and the complexity here and what's going on behind the scenes with the issues once you get into a hearing, it really obligates you to kind of stick with that hearing. You can't say, well, I'm not going to show up this summer, I'm going to Florida, and you miss 4 or 5 meetings, and you no longer can vote on that hearing. I reference a Mullen rule, and that basically states that you can only miss like 1 meeting, and you have to actually make it up, read the minutes, so you don't just come in cold and say, yeah, I vote yes or no, without having any of the information.
Sure.
You'd be like a judge who didn't show up to the court case and said,
He's guilty. Yeah.
I wasn't here, but you're guilty anyway. I mean, that's kind of how it.
I'm pretty sure you're guilty.
So the state has come back and said, no, you have to, and if we lose enough members who haven't shown up at meetings, we have to basically have them refile again because you don't have a quorum that can vote legally.
Yeah, no, I heard that. That would be very. I think I'd be disappointed if I was coming before you. Yeah.
And it's not even our issue; it's the state. It forces us to do that.
Sure.
Because the vote, if we did that, wouldn't be legal.
Okay.
So it's complex. I mean, it's certainly satisfying. We've protected lots of open space. We interact with almost all the other boards here, but it's definitely a technical activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we get great support.
Yeah.
So
well, that's good.
I not rarely, I regularly feel like I'm out of my depth, but we get great support.
And when I can't, we hire third-party reviewers. All those memos we were referencing.
Sure.
Is the stuff that's over my head. Like I do what I can do, but I also acknowledge when I don't know something, and we can hire kind of.
So we hire our experts. They bring in applicant will bring in their experts. We hire our experts to review their reports, just so again we have a fair look at technical reports. They hire hydrologists. We have someone to look at it. Engineers again. So it's not just everything's good. Don't worry about it. I mean, we're looking at protecting resources for the town. And if we don't do it, the DEP in Wilmington doesn't come up here very often from 205 Wall Street. So it's really incumbent upon us to kind of take interest, and they authorize us under the law to manage these hearings, to run these hearings on their behalf. So we act on behalf of the DEP.
Okay. Well, I guess the other question I think of is, there's no individual liability here, right? As a municipality, I think that.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So we do get sued from time to time,
Uh-huh.
and your name is on the suit.
Okay.
But the town, literally most of the time that comes to me with your names on it.
Mhm.
And the town covers it 200%. There's no liability that comes back to you.
Mhm.
But sometimes when you see a lawsuit and your name's on it, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what is this?
The only
But
way it would come back if someone did something really crazy or egregious, kind of outside
outside
the
of
realm
the scope of their job.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah.
But that would be true of any public official. If you did
Sure,
something really,
right.
you know, crazy, no one's gonna stand behind you and say, yeah, you know.
And these two lead us extremely well. And
I was very impressed. You guys handled it very well. A little
But
bit difficult,
we
yeah.
don't stray into a situation where we would be in trouble, because Carl has, Carl has an extremely well-developed sense for how we need to conduct ourselves with applicants, and Steve gives us great technical advice too. So, I feel like, yeah, there are those situations, but I never feel like we're imperiled or whatever, because you keep us out of trouble, the two of them keep us out of trouble.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have any questions for me, other than that, that's my background. I mean, I remember it was much more, I think there was a lot more animosity in like some of the Boxford things 25 years ago.
Well, I mean,
because they were just starting to feel that that expansion.
I mean,
Yeah.
I certainly, as I indicated, as you probably heard, we always try and work with someone. Even if there's an enforcement issue, my modus operandi is I'm going to try and work with you. If you work with me, I'll try and work with you. I certainly remember in the early days there was a lot of contention, yelling back and forth and all this stuff. If someone's willing to work with us, the door's open. But sometimes there's actually, in some cases, there's objectives behind the scene going on. So we try and work with them. That's why we basically develop regulations, so we could codify what people would follow instead of just under the Wetland Protection Act. There really is no specific setbacks. So we said these are setbacks. You can follow them. You can read them. You can quantify them. Make it a little easier for folks. So it's interesting, and there's a big learning curve for two. I mean,
That's what I can see. Yeah, there is a learning curve.
You have to spend some time, but there's a learning curve of just kind of understanding how these hearings work, and every commission has the same say. It's everyone's vote is one vote, and no one takes any precedent in that sense. So
I also can meet with new commissioners, just hour for a day here or there, or come into the meetings half hour early and go through the whole project, and I can kind of explain my comments. And so when it comes to a meeting, you don't come in cold turkey and like, what is this? Like literally, I can almost tell you kind of how it's going to frame through the meeting.
You get a big manual that kind of walks you through what the rules and regulations are, the laws kind of, and then there's
it's pretty stale.
I've seen a couple of them. Yeah,
It's
sitting with me for a few hours
Okay.
is best.
It wasn't that bad.
No, he was talking about the MAC manual.
Oh,
So that's
that
the
big
the
one?
regulations are thin.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 2 pages. The meat of it's 2 pages. The MAC manual's this big, and
Yeah, that
kind of
one
goes
is-
over. It goes over kind of what your real role as a conservation commissioner is, and
Sure.
there's again some people kind of come into this thinking we do one thing versus another, but and where our area of jurisdiction is. So
So that specifies it. Yeah, that's good.
if you ever forget, I'll tell you.
Sure. I can tell. Yeah. I don't think Steve backs down, does he?
Nope.
Try
Right.
not to.
All right.
but it's I think you probably find it interesting and
Yeah. Oh, no, I think
satisfying.
it's interesting. That's why I wanted to, I find that going through it on the other side, I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
That was, the challenge was to get something done was always there, and that's kind of the fun of it, so.
And I wouldn't worry too much about being overwhelmed. It's a process.
Mhm.
I always think it takes about a year for the commissioners to get to understand the language. What's an order of conditions? What's a COC? We talk so fast.
Yeah.
You don't need to be you're not going to turn to Carl for another 20 years. I mean, that doesn't happen. Don't be nervous about the first 2 meetings and not knowing what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Most new commissioners don't talk. They spend the first 3 or 4 meetings just listening. Besides Rachel, she didn't stop talking.
She came right out of the gate.
I know you can't imagine that.
So I would like to say, it's interesting that you were on the other side of the table Because, right, we all take it very seriously. We're here to protect the town. We're here to protect the town. We're here to protect residents. And that's our job. And it may seem like we say a lot of no, but we're doing our job for the good of the people who live
You
here.
know, we've seen a lot of bad projects come in, and I can pick them out in other towns around here too. Bad projects, and then people end up having to live with them in perpetuity. That affects their resources, water, and all this stuff. And it's like that was just a poor planning. I mean, flooding is one of the most damaging things in the United States. I used to work for FEMA too, and it costs billions of dollars, and a lot of it's due to poor planning, poor location of development, poor drainage, all this kind of stuff.
Lack of stormwater.
Lack of stormwater. I mean,
yeah.
And again, we think we're great engineers, but man doesn't always do a great job of without doing the calculations. Oh, don't worry, nothing's going to flood. Really?
So I kind of have to ask this for the record. You were in kind of not a huge degree, but a developer. You handled some development. You're not. We talked the other day. You're not in that anymore. You don't have any financial ties to developers or developments or any activity like that. You've kind of moved on from that.
No, I mean, well, like I say, in some of my marketing things, I might work with a developer,
but not like you're not going to be a
I'm
developer
not
walking in here. It's not like you know him.
Three of us say, hey, how you doing?
Well, and the other
you
thing,
can always abstain if you do know an applicant. You can always abstain.
Yeah, that's the ethics end. I mean, you also if your brother-in-law has a project coming before us, you can't vote on it. Right. That's kind of one of these state ethics issues.
I just want to mention it for the record.
Right.
We talked about that earlier. I just wanted more.
Because we've had commissioners come on board, wanting to get on the commission because there's something potentially coming in their neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
That's where you have to kind of understand you legally have to back away from those issues. You're going to be a biased commission. So
No, there's nothing that like I have stuff like that.
And you'd have to take the ethics training anyway. We all do. So it's
sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys, and
you're welcome.
Yeah, you got out early.
We're still getting out early.
This is early.
Thank you very much for coming
Okay.
in, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for coming
Okay.
in.
Before we adjourn, could
We're
I?
not going to.
Oh,
I'm just sending something around. This is the denial. Sorry for rushing around. I wanted to get you. I thought we were continuing it, so I didn't print the document. So I apologize for leaving the room twice now, because that's the denial for the Tiz Junkyard project.
Okay.
So I can issue it next week. Otherwise, it would have been delayed, and I don't want to miss the 21 day.
thank you.
And the printer room was locked, so I had to break in downstairs. Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy.
So can I ask a
need to
I
make a motion
sent
for
you
this,
an.
right?
No, you
Huh?
don't. That's
No.
administrative.
No.
We already voted on
We
it.
already voted.
Alright, just double checking.
Yes, Laura.
I asked you the other day about the West Street
Correct.
mowing plan. I
Oh, yeah.
turned around down there after a site walk and the whole thing has been mowed down to dirt.
Yeah, we had this discussion, a few
Is
weeks
this
ago.
the soccer? is this
Sorry,
the
I
active-
wasn't here
Is
the
this the
last
active soccer
meeting.
field or the backfield?
I couldn't see the
So
backfield.
you're talking the front field.
But there were strips in the front field that we weren't going to mow, like the little incline.
The little
Do I
field.
I don't
you're
remember what
correct.
we
You're
agreed, I
correct.
think.
So I looked up the attachment. I did not bring it because I didn't have a chance to print it. We conditioned when they could mow as the time of the day.
The discussion was we were coming up on the season and we wanted to make sure we didn't run into a problem like we had a year or
So
two ago.
But
We forget about it and we didn't get into a clash.
But the attachment said very specific: no mowing, no using the field between these two time frames. They can mow it. It just has to be between that
Okay.
day and time of the
Thanks.
time of the day.
I thought we had made an agreement where we would leave parts of it
No.
unmowed.
So the little backfield.
The poison ivy field,
No,
the
the
very
little one,
back?
so that you go across the main field and there's a little mowed rise
Yes.
and a little tiny
Yep.
like kiddie field. What you're remembering is during the discussion, we talked about having that turned back to natural settings, never mowed ever again.
Oh,
That never got conditioned in the project. It was a discussion.
okay.
But that never was one of the conditions that was formally approved. There was another condition, they were gonna mow the backfield, the poison ivy field once a year. I don't know where that condition came from. They haven't been doing it. When I asked them about doing it, I checked with some of the turtle folk, and they said, no, don't mow it, just leave it alone. It's better for the turtles to not mow it.
Right.
So I have not enforced mowing the backfield, the poison ivy field.
How would they mow that field?
Well,
You would
it's a
have
hayer.
to
They
They have to use
dress
those, they have to use
in
those brush
Brush
special
hogs.
brush hogs, yeah.
So I guess,
hazardous
you know,
waste gear.
So I guess they're complying this year. They've been put on notice not to use the fields after a certain time. They're promising that will not happen. We had issues last year, we had issues the year before.
Yeah, as I said, I
Have
just,
we checked their schedule to make sure
They sent it
that
to
they
me.
have nothing
I just wanna-
Oh,
scheduled
as far
then?
as, no, I haven't checked that. They've sent all of the forms, all of the like different things they have been in like bold. I met with someone from Park and Rec yesterday, and
Oh, super.
so.
yeah, I just wanna keep the dialogue going, the communication going, you know, so, you know, that's,
I'll check their
so we
schedule.
don't have a problem.
That's actually the best check of all, is just to check their schedule. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's watchdog.
Right.
That's a great idea, Laura. I haven't thought, when you said schedule, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was available online. But you're right.
Okay, thank you.
You got it, thank you.
I mean, that's half of the battle, communication, to make sure that we're,
Because we are now in prime blanding's nesting time.
I know.
This is exactly when they're out.
I also got a call, I talked to the Fish and Wildlife person that's in charge of assessing roadkill. And we're trying to evaluate the culvert down in West Street that just got replaced. Huge box culvert, it's perfect for critter paths. The turtles aren't using it. They're going over the road and getting smushed.
speaking of that, I had to, by the
So
Pond
many.
Street Dam, I had to rescue a gigantic snapping turtle the other day. I couldn't get him to move, he's like that big, so a guy, traffic was stopped both ways, and a guy yelled at me, he says, hey, I got a shovel in the back of my pickup, do you want it borrowed? I said, yeah. So he was probably about 35 pounds, I picked him up.
Did you pick him up with the
The
shovel?
Carried him over.
Wow.
Everyone's like, thank you.
So I'm meeting
He's
with
trying to bite me.
I'm meeting with the PD next week to look at options for slowing traffic down through the West Street area, potentially speed bumps that we can remove in the winter, some
Yeah.
signage, some speed traps. We just have
That's
to.
a really
the
good
biggest,
idea.
The best trick, according to this person from the state, was just to slow people down and have them pay attention.
That's a
they're
challenge.
big critters.
Can
don't want to
we-
hit them intentionally.
Getting
Can we
people to
put
slow
some
down.
sort of barrier either side of the, so here's the bridge.
We're gonna do that
And
too.
they're supposed to go, and can we put barriers here so they're like, oh,
The
maybe
problem
I
is
can't
the
go that way?
wetlands typically, because of the wetlands are filled, the rivers are filled, the wetland funnels into the culvert.
Yeah,
So
so it's a long
So what we're gonna do
edge.
is, I'm meeting with them in 2 weeks to assess. They have like really short 12-inch chain link fencing. And so you actually create a chain link fence,
funnel.
to funnel into the culvert.
Like a cattle,
Good idea.
gate.
So we're gonna install that, but I guess, this came up, literally this conversation just happened. So I'm talking to PD about what they can do to help, because I can't install speed bumps. I
No,
can't
and-
add
and
a sign.
see,
I
they've gotta
can't
only be
resist it.
temporary, because they can't deal with speed bumps in the winter time
Correct.
and plow.
I mean, but we're gonna put it up very specific window right now is their time they're moving, because of the breeding season.
Oh.
Now, is the culvert, I mean,
It's a
is
big
it all,
box.
is it dark in there? I mean, is there any light going through? Because, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes that's an issue too, the
Yeah.
critters swimming along and says, nah, I don't wanna go in there.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not an expert in this. This woman is. When she comes out in a few weeks, we'll talk about it. And
Is that
look at
Lori
the numbers.
Erb?
No, this is someone I haven't dealt with before.
Mm.
So Lori's like their biologist, reptile person. This person's in charge of specifically roadkill.
Oh.
And so
That is
they
an
need help. So we'll
interesting-
probably do I offered help install the fence. So we'll get that fence in, but that's the only thing that we kind of have jurisdiction over.
That's a really good idea, though.
They're also going to evaluate the lagoons, because we've had some lagoon issues. The water department has lagoons down there. There's been reports of turtles getting in there, so while she's out there, I asked her to look at that and see if there's any ways of improving that.
A few years ago, we put logs
did.
all around the outside.
I haven't checked on it in a while. While she's out there, I just wanted to ask. We actually put chicken wire on too, because they were getting over the logs. I don't think the gate was ever fixed. The gate has a gap in the bottom, so
Yeah.
we might want to put flaps on that. But while the state's out here, I just think it'd be good to have them evaluate any, maybe by Pond Street down there where there's a lot of hits. Just see what options we have.
Well, see, it's better now that that fence is down. This guy happened to be right by the dam. He had come out right by the dam, but I used to all the time get them trapped in the street because of that fence, and they were like,
It was a
they
death
couldn't get
trap.
back into the water, and they're
That's
kind of
right.
wandering down the road. But now it's pretty rare. But this big guy was like right by the dam.
Wow, you were brave. He could have broken the handle off of that shovel.
Poor guy, so.
Trying to
So-
bite my toe off.
So that's all the business I have for tonight. I see Ray over there fading.
I'm always fading.
Yeah, well,
All right.
whatever gets
Middle
us out of
name.
here.
I'll entertain a
Ray
motion.
Fade.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
Right.
I
Do
make
it.
a motion to close.
Second.
There's a motion to close, and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, all abstaining. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.